decent bit on the south.
And I'm like, really?
Yeah.
No.
It's about ready to.
Well, I'm lucky the other grandmother is in Florida, so
Yeah.
we don't see her too
How do I
much.
get to send this one away?
He's got my brain. Yeah.
I will now call to order the city council meeting of October 9th, 2023. It's a regular city council meeting tonight. Members of the public are invited to attend in-person meetings in council chambers. Public access to the meeting is also available by telephone by using the call-in numbers posted on the meeting agenda. Meetings are broadcast on Channel 8 for Comcast and Xfinity subscribers and on the city's YouTube channel online. Joanna, will you call the roll, please?
Mayor Leidy,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Lukman Hiramasa,
Here,
Councilmember Long,
Here.
Councilmember Jaramillo,
Here.
Councilmember Kondo,
Here.
Councilmember Burns,
Here.
Councilmember Goff,
here,
Councilmember Brown,
here.
Councilmember Walker.
Here.
Thank you.
No, I just lost mine.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
City Manager Guyer, are there any responses to resident inquiry?
One item this evening, Mayor and Council, as I shared via email on Friday, I plan to read the update that I provided to all of you and the residents along 111th Place. So please bear with me as I share this update. The 10/6/23 112th Ditch and Roadway Weekly Update consists of Mile High Flood District is continuing their work on the study that's underway. I am working with Mile High Flood District to schedule a community meeting, and I'll be able to share a date for that meeting and details next week. So that information will be forthcoming in this Friday's update because we're still finalizing logistics. This past week, the city was involved in removing small gravel from the streetscape along the roadway. These areas will be replaced with larger rock at a later date to be determined. This step is not an overall fix to the problem. It's a step in mitigating the amount of small rock that's being washed into yards and into the roadway when we have significant rainfall. Last week, city staff met with Mile High Flood District and assessed what additional sediment removal can be done to help increase the capacity of the ditch. The reason that this work is being done on the ditch is to ensure that the ditch takes the rainfall and runoff that it is designed to take. This work is also a mitigating step. There are several steps that Pam Aker took when she met on site with the Mile High Flood District staff, and those steps include in the coming week, Vales, the contractor for the Mile High Flood District, will again cut back vegetation. In the next week or two, any vegetation cut will be removed from the ditch and hauled away. So that's a visible activity that residents will see along the 112th ditch. They will begin removing sediment from the ditch and work to stabilize the ditch bottom and slopes that we're having significant erosion control issues with due to the amount of rainfall that we've experienced and the moisture in the ditch. And this includes sediment and vegetation removal in specific areas, not simply scraping the bottom of the ditch. They will also remove a sandbar in the vicinity of Larson Glen Park. Specifically, if you're looking north towards the neighborhood, just east of Larson Street, it's right there in that area, south of the park area. Mile High Flood District will also have riprap installed at the pipe outlet of the street inlet on the north side. And then they will remove some of the rock check structures below Irma and above the railroad tracks, which is further east. They'll also use those boulders and probably more to try to stabilize some severe erosion cuts to the north and south banks in the same area. The sediment removal portion of the work will likely take 2 to 3 weeks. Vales will also be using small equipment, working with hand tools as there is such limited room in this ditch. They will be assessing the ditch from the sidewalk and the asphalt at the basketball court of Larson Glen Park. And they'll try to do their best to limit interruption and to those active areas as well as traffic on 112th. So that's the update that I shared with council and the residents of 111th Place last Friday. Per my email, I also shared that I plan to provide updates every Friday, even if the update is there is no update. So if there's any questions, happy to answer those, but that's the update for today. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Brown?
Hi, Heather. I'm just curious, should we expect any lane closures or anything on 112th, or is that something we'll find out as it goes along?
At this point, no expected lane closures. That may occur, but it's not expected at this point. And if it does occur, then proper traffic control, and we'll continue to have traffic flow, and hopefully do that outside of peak travel times.
Okay, thank you very much.
Councilmember Jaramillo?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I can attest that there has been work done to remove foliage from 112th ditch. Today when I was playing basketball at Larson Glen Park, so I, made sure I checked it out. So they're doing a great job, and it's just what we need. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Thank you. We have 4 proclamations tonight, so if council would like to join me down front. Good evening. So our first proclamation tonight is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So we have 2 staff members that are coming to accept this proclamation, I believe. Tammy Moon, our environmental manager, and Sarah Dusenberry, our HEAL committee representative. So thank you for joining us. Whereas, during National Breast Cancer Awareness Month, we stand with all who have been affected by a diagnosis of breast cancer, and we recognize all who have been supported and joined their loved ones in fighting their battle, as well as the researchers and healthcare providers whose diligence and hard work gives hope to those living with breast cancer. And whereas in 2023, it is estimated that 300,590 people will be diagnosed with breast cancer in the United States. And whereas breast cancer affects all genders, it is important for everyone, women, men, people who identify as transgender, non-binary, and gender fluid, to get information and seek preventative care. And whereas there are more than 4 million breast cancer survivors in the United States, which can be attributed to earlier detection through screening, increased awareness, and continually improving treatment options. And whereas wearing pink ribbons or pink clothing during October is a helpful reminder to everyone that there is no substitute for reaching out and engaging in dialogue with loved ones, family, and friends about getting a screening mammogram, which increases the opportunity for early detection and treatment options. And whereas National Mammography Day will be celebrated on October 20th, 2023, to serve as a reminder and encouragement to get screened for breast cancer. And whereas Breast Cancer Awareness Month is an opportunity to unite residents and our community to prevent breast cancer deaths through increased education and regular screenings. Now, therefore, I, Meredith Leidy, Mayor of the City of North Glen, Colorado, do hereby proclaim October 2023 as Breast Cancer Awareness Month in the City of North Glen, and urge all residents to increase their knowledge about breast cancer, its risk factors, screening and early detection, and treatment options. Dated at North Glen, Colorado, this 9th day of October 2023. So I'm going to give that to you. And I
Public, Mayor Leidy, and council members. I just want to add a couple quick thoughts about Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Many of you in this room may know that in 2019 I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and I went through chemotherapy, radiation, surgery, and a year worth of treatments. And so I know firsthand the impacts that breast cancer can have on the individual, your families, your community, your friends. And so this is a really important and very heartfelt acceptance of this proclamation for the month of October. I also want to share that the HEAL Committee, along with recreation staff and members of the city's wellness committee, have organized a breast cancer awareness walk in conjunction with the Susan G. Komen Walk Where You Are event. The walk will be held on October 28th at 10 a.m. We encourage all residents, employees, friends, families, people who are fighting their own breast cancer fight, or who are survivors like myself, or friends and families of those who are fighting breast cancer, to join us for a 5K-ish walk around E.B. Rains Park and the neighborhood. We'll meet at the Blue Spruce Pavilion and start our walk from there. So thank you very much, and I appreciate this very much. 10 a.m.
Okay.
Thank you.
Our next proclamation tonight is for Business Appreciation Week, and we have Allison Moding, our Director of Economic Development, Shannon Fields, Economic Development Specialist, and Marisa Phillips, Economic Development Coordinator, are all here. Whereas the City of North Glen is proud to cultivate and grow the quality and diversity of businesses to sustain the local economy and workforce. And whereas the City of North Glen is made up of a diverse base of more than 1,000 businesses and industries that contribute to our local economy, create quality jobs, and enhance the quality of life for its residents. And whereas the City of North Glen's goal is to create a business-friendly and welcoming environment for companies to successfully increase sales, capital investment, and wealth. And whereas the City of North Glen recognizes the many charitable, civic, and philanthropic contributions made by businesses and their employees, and we encourage their continued participation in the development of our city. And whereas the City Council wishes to acknowledge the existing North Glen businesses and express its gratitude to our community partners. Now, therefore, I, Meredith Leidy, Mayor of the City of North Glen, Colorado, hereby proclaim October 16th through the 20th as Business Appreciation Week in the City of North Glen, and encourage the community to join together in thanking North Glen businesses for their many contributions to the quality of life in our community and the sustainability and economic well-being of our city. Dated at North Glen, Colorado, that's 9th day of October, 2023. Do you want to add?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Council. This is an important week for us. On October 17th, we will have our 11th annual Business Appreciation event. That'll be at Parsons Theater from 4 to 7 p.m. This is our way to recognize a group of North Glen businesses who've contributed to the community, who've been innovative, who've been creative in how they operate their businesses and employ folks and make our communities better. So we really look forward to the opportunity to tell the stories of those businesses and it'll be a great event. So also want to thank my staff that are here, and I think we really enjoy working with our businesses and taking an opportunity to let them know that they are appreciated. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next one is Italian Heritage Month. Bob, come on down. Come on down.
You're supposed to run like on Price is Right.
Bob is a North Glen resident and member of the Dante. Can you say that?
Dante Alighieri Society meeting.
Right.
Or committee. And I have
Excellent.
other members.
Oh, do they all want to come up? Let's all come up. Come on up. I've always appreciated Bob's engagement with the city and making sure that we don't ever forget Italian Heritage Month. Whereas October has been designated as Italian Heritage Month to recognize the Italian American community and to show appreciation for their culture and heritage that has enriched the lives of people in our community and across the country. And whereas over 26 million Americans of Italian descent currently reside in the United States, making Italian Americans one of the largest ethnic groups. And whereas Italian Americans have made significant economic and cultural contributions to our state and the nation in the areas of government, science and technology, arts and entertainment, literature, education, medicine, military service, and food. And whereas Italian Americans were instrumental in establishing Colorado as a leader in railroad transportation, the mining, timber, and masonry industries, and agricultural production and distribution. And whereas Italian Americans continue to enhance and promote the diversity of Colorado by fostering their cultural heritage, which is supported by the active Italian American organizations throughout the state. And whereas the city of North Glen joins in celebrating the Italian American community and recognizes their continued contributions to the growth and prosperity of their state, our state. Now, therefore, I, Meredith Leidy, Mayor of the City of North Glen, Colorado, do hereby proclaim October 2023 as Italian Heritage Month in the City of North Glen and encourage all residents to join in celebrating the many contributions of Italian Americans. Dated at North Glen, Colorado, this 9th day of October, 2023. Do you want to add?
Thank you for honoring us. We are a group like many groups in our state and our city. So thank you. Let's all get together and let's all love and honor each other.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
So I always do both.
Very kind. Thank you.
I know where to go for dinner. Mary, she takes me cooking lessons.
Okay, our fourth proclamation tonight is National Substance Abuse Prevention Month, and our own Councilmember Brown will be accepting this proclamation. Whereas October has been designated as National Substance Abuse Prevention Month to collectively focus on preventing substance abuse, remember those we have lost to the addiction crisis, congratulate those who have taken steps to recovery, and acknowledge the family members, friends, and professionals supporting them. And whereas substance abuse disorders affect people from all walks of life and all age groups, millions of Americans suffer from substance abuse, which includes underage drinking, alcohol dependency, non-medical use of prescription drugs, abuse of over-the-counter medications, and illicit drug use. And whereas every day people are hurt by alcohol and drug use, from diminished achievement in schools to greater risks on our roads and in our communities, to the heartache of lives cut tragically short from overdoses, the consequences of substance abuse are profound. And whereas addiction is a treatable medical disorder and recovery from addiction is in reach for anyone. In a society that often stigmatizes addiction, it is imperative that we promote empathy and understanding so that more people get the help they need. And whereas we are grateful for the efforts of organizations who provide substance abuse prevention programs to reach young people, law enforcement agencies and school districts who are prepared to respond to overdoses, and community members who work to lessen the stigma surrounding substance abuse and support individuals who are struggling with or in recovery from substance use disorders. Now, therefore, I, Meredith Leidy, Mayor of the City of North Glen, Colorado, do hereby proclaim October 2023 as National Substance Abuse Prevention Month in the City of North Glen, and urge everyone to learn to recognize the signs of substance use disorders, reach out to the people in their lives to share resources, and promote healthy lifestyles to prevent substance abuse, and offer support to all without judgment. Dated at North Glen, Colorado, this 9th day of October, 2023.
If you didn't notice, I'm like a milkshake. I don't think it's any surprise to most of the people in the room that I am an advocate for our drug addicts and our homeless population. I do this in my spare time. I spend a lot of time with parents, helping them through the processes, getting them information, holding their hand as they're going through these terrible things with their kids. And I just wanted to say, it's my last one, so I've got a little bit to say this time. There were 27 million people in the United States that reported using illicit drugs or misusing prescription drugs, and nearly a quarter of the adults and adolescents reported binge drinking in the past month. The annual economic impact of substance misuse is estimated to be $249 billion for alcohol misuse and $193 billion for illicit drug uses. I found this next part interesting. Young Americans aged 12 to 20 account for over 11% of the county's alcohol consumption. As I work with these parents, I'm finding more and more kids in the middle school that are starting to drink or starting to do drugs, and it blows me away every time someone says their kid is 15 and they're hooked on heroin. It just breaks my heart. In 2022, fentanyl was responsible for 200 deaths every day. Every day, 200 people died. My granddaughter's father, Ian Davis, was one of those whose lives was taken by an accidental overdose of fentanyl. Early intervention, obviously, is the key, but the other key is that through community-based efforts involving the youth, the parents, educators, and government officers, we can strengthen the support systems. It's a very difficult system. I wish Crisis was here. It's a hard one to work, and that's why they reach out to people who make it their life to help them. And I wanted to share that naloxone now, which is the overdose medication, you know, if someone's on opioids, is available at most pharmacy chains now, including CVS, Walgreens, Walmart, Safeway, Albertsons, and King Soopers. Safeway has the cheapest price if anybody's interested. I always keep one in my purse when I get them on time because I'm downtown a lot. And my mission and my goal after I leave council in December, is to continue working with our addicts, continue working with the state, making sure that the ones that we look down on the most are given an opportunity to heal and to fight their addictions. We just had a walk down in downtown the beginning of September, I think, for drug overdose prevention. And the amount of people honking and applauding all the addicts that were walking through the streets were just heartwarming. And they actually got 2 people to go into rehab that day on the walk. So that's really quite an accomplishment. Ian's name was put on the Tree of Life, and although that's super hard, it's on there. And that's a good thing, because we have to be reminded every day of the people we lose, and they can come from anywhere, anywhere. I swear, once a week I'm hearing about an addict who lost their battle. So I have some information that I'm going to give to Heather, and it's where parents can start, because a lot of parents, what I've found is that they don't know where to go. You know, they're scared, they don't know what benefits or things are offered to them through Medicaid, because most of our addicts are on Medicaid. So just having a friendly voice on the other end of a phone seems to really help. And as I found out that these sites are really hard to find, that's why our parents can't get the information. That's why our parents, for lack of a better word, I'm going to change it though, don't know or don't recognize what they're seeing. So thank you very much. It's my last one that I get to accept, so I appreciate it. And I appreciate you, Mayor, for standing behind me.
Thank you.
It's
my turn now.
Yeah, we're turning it over to David for doing Good Neighbor Awards.
Good evening, everyone. First off, thank you for allowing me to be here tonight to present the newest recipients of the Good Neighbor Award. For those of you who might not know what the award is, this is presented to residents who truly make a difference in our community, whether it's shoveling for their neighbors, or lending a helping hand with a project, or just feeding a cat when they're gone, or just being kind. It's a way for the city and the council to recognize and thank these residents. Tonight, I have the honor of introducing you to 2 of the 3 recipients. Unfortunately, Mr. Ferris could not be here tonight. So our first recipient tonight is Marilyn Powers, and this is what their nominator wrote. Marilyn is known by the kids on the block as the neighborhood Grammy. She has always kept an open door policy for all those who live near and makes an effort to support surrounding families with their children nearby. She helps to guide all of those children on her block to make good choices and be good humans, and keeps them constantly seeing the good in the world. She's a positive influence on all the families surrounding her, and not only does she make the extra effort on her street, but always goes out of her way to stay involved in Northglenn by keeping the city well-maintained and a positive place to live. Marilyn, if you wouldn't mind joining me up here. Just have a picture up there. Okay. Yeah. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Next, 3 people were nominated from one family. So Brad, Jennifer, and Alex West. Only Jennifer is here tonight. But their nominator wrote that Brad, Jen, and their son Alex have been the best neighbors I've ever had. While we've always had a great relationship with them, my son and husband have had health issues over the year, and Brad and Jen have always gone above and beyond the call to help. Brad helps by working on our cars and computers, and when Steve was really sick, Alex mowed our yard. Jennifer has also cleaned our sidewalks of snow before we've even opened the front door. They water our flowers and plants and feed our cats when we're on vacation. When we rearranged and got new furniture and had to clean out our old furniture and some junk, all 3 of them were there to help without even being asked. Besides just helping whenever possible, we also get together for cookouts, playing music, and darts together. Thank you, Brad, Jen, and Alex, for being the best neighbors around. We love you. So Jen, if you wouldn't mind coming up here. And while Mr. Ferris couldn't be here tonight, we still gonna read what the nominator wrote for Dennis Ferris. Dennis lives near E.B. Raines Junior Memorial Park. He picks up trash as he walks it twice daily. He lets staff know if he sees things that are out of the norm and looks for a way to problem solve to support the upkeep of his great open space. Dennis is very supportive and caring of the park, which benefits all the park users. We are thankful to have his support and demonstrate steward of our public space. So thank you, Dennis. Yeah.
Yep.
Ready? 3, 2, 1. Thank you very much.
Thanks for being here. Okay, next up is public invited to be heard. This is an opportunity for public comment on any item not set for public hearing. Statements are limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Statements must be related to city business and limited to matters of community interest. Joanna, is anyone signed up to speak to council?
Yes, Madam Mayor, we have 2 individuals who signed up prior to the meeting. The first person is Mark Bromley.
Please state your name and address or ward and provide your comments to council.
Well, hi there. I'm Mark Bromley, address on file, running for mayor. Thank you again, City Council, for still not stripping the local competitor community of our First Amendment rights. I want to say happy, heroic Columbus Day. One of the greatest explorers known in the U.S. American history and all around the world. Today is Columbus Day. Now, once upon a time was a city north of Denver. Long ago, upon its inception, it was good and holy and never persecuted its Christian community. Fact is, the town north of Denver was built and founded by the Christians and those faiths of the Bible beliefs. It was good for about 4 years. Then something went wonky. Children as young as 4 got labeled just to be in kindergarten. Not much of a problem, as the dangers was not known at the time. Yet for our hero of the Glen, our George Floyd, that was just the beginning of the atrocity of life in poverty in this city north of Denver. Corruption infested the council and the city management. Evils of all kinds began aiming lynch mobs of polarized hate crimes by the hand of the careless council, who emulated the meme trope of what is known as a Karen, a psychopathic desire of lust and pride to harm and hurt and injure those of lesser means because of the HOA cult, that is HOA insanity. This city, north of Denver, never was part of a HOA cult and never will be. North of Denver was simply a single-family home community of family first-orientated Christians, but the persecution was only getting started by the vile cruelty of liberal hate groups festering in the city via the sin of pride and lies of the demon-possessed. North of Denver got wicked, evil, and twisted, with one terrible toxic Karen council member after another. North of Denver got cruel and abusive and deceptive via a vile city monarchy that defied democracy and the Constitution of the nation and the state. Fraud and perversity becoming the law, creating kangaroo courts where all were guilty, promoting greed, plunder, and evil deeds be done by the inappropriate partisan Karen Council. A taxpayer-funded monarchy north of Denver. Lawful defense was tossed out the door, wallet stolen, ran over by a bus, tossed into the ditch, and left for dead. The kangaroo court of these not licensed by the bar, not elected as a judge, sat on the Karen Toxic Council. Farce. Considering the tyranny of a dystopian community kangaroo court and a mobile kangaroo court. The USA was no more in the city north of Denver, only vile cruelty, abuses of all kinds, as the failing south of Denver school bad educator turned math and reading into a sin. This way, no one could read about freedom, the Christian Bible, or even learn of Noel Northland, or sing a Christmas carol written by a Christian in her school. Perverse ignorance became the law north of Denver. Fabricating kangaroo courts is perversity of justice, creating slavery, internment camps, and inequality, discrimination, insensitivity, and exclusivity by brutal means. The Karen Toxic members had in the past month committed persecution and hate crimes towards businesses and their employees. North of Denver has the best employees and the best businesses. Don't let your far-left blindness follow the evil path of socialist, globalist dictators and tyrants foreign to the U.S. Please, North of Denver Toxic Council, redirect your hate crimes so that the George Floyd, Mark Bromley of mayor, can breathe and bring common sense back to a better Northland future. I fix everything with proper love and understanding. Thank you, City Council, for taking the time with me to cure your ills today. And at least you're doing something about the 112th Street thing. That's actually good. But I would suggest actually moving that about 5 feet to the north, the actual road itself, and then actually building more drainage there along with a sound wall, because the exhaust from the trucks, when it gets to the cul-de-sac, they tend to blast all their exhaust into the residents there and stuff. So they do need some kind of a blocker right there just to keep that from happening. And that's just a suggestion. Thanks.
Joanna, is there anyone else signed up?
Yes, the second person on the list is Tom Lampo.
Hi, Tom.
Hi, Tom. I look forward to you every week. Thank you.
So it's good to be back in front of Northglenn. I'm here to pray for the city and its people. Please join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, in Jesus Christ's holy name, we invite you here to the city of Northglenn. Thank you for your presence amongst us. This is your city. You are the creator and ruler of all. It states in Psalm 103:19, the Lord has established his throne in heaven, and his kingdom rules over all. You rule over all as a loving God that has given us free will to make our own decisions. 1 Corinthians 10:23 states, I have the right to do anything, you say, but not everything is beneficial. I have the right to do anything, but not everything is constructive. So with free will, we sometimes make choices that can be harmful. Guide us with your loving touch and direct our paths. Proverbs 3:5-6 states, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight. Help us to trust in you and guide us in our decisions. We are less than a month away from being able to vote for those that will serve us here in Northglenn. Give us wisdom. You want our leaders to stand and not to do things as politicians, but as children of God in political position. So assist us in electing those who will look at their position as an opportunity to further serve you. Recently, across our country and worldwide, many significant changes have taken place. We lift up all that have been harmed, hurt, or lost their life in the conflict in Israel. What we see happening is a manifestation of the unseen. As the spiritual battle wages on, we see chaos. But you are a God that brings order from chaos. In John 8:3-11, it states, the teachers of the law and the Pharisees brought in a woman caught in adultery. They made her stand before the group and said to Jesus, Teacher, this woman was caught in the act of adultery. In the law, Moses commanded us to stone such women. Now what do you say? They were using this question as a trap in order to have a basis for accusing him. But Jesus bent down and started to write on the ground with his finger. When they kept on questioning him, he straightened up and said to them,
Let any one of you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her." Again he stooped down and wrote on the ground. At this, those who heard began to go away one at a time, the older ones first, until only Jesus was left, with the woman still standing there. Jesus straightened up and asked her, "Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?" "No one, sir," she said. "Then neither do I condemn you," Jesus declared. "Go now and leave your life of sin." Order from chaos. You've already won the battle, and we declare your victory. Please now bring order to the chaos we live in. In your precious name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, and you have a nice night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience who did not have a chance to sign up that would like to speak to council? Okay. Is there anyone on the phone who would like to speak to council? You may press *6 to unmute at this time. Okay. Hearing none, we're going to move to communications. We will start with Ward 1, Councilmember Burns.
Hi. We have our historical preservation meeting tomorrow, so I'll have an update for that next time. My other thing I wanted to talk about was my older son started the Path to Pre-K classes at the rec center, and he loves it. So shout out to all of our pre-K teachers as well. They do a great job. The facilities are amazing, and we do have a lot of parents outside of North Glen who bring their kids to these programs, which I think is great. We're doing a great job, and I would love to see us be able to house even more kids and help even more families with their childcare needs. Yeah, it's great. So shout out to the rec team for that.
Thank you. Councilmember Walker?
Thank you. I just want to first say thank you to our great neighbors and for all the wonderful things you guys do to make the city so great. So I just want to say thank you again for all you do. Thank you, Mr. Lampo, for your wonderful words. I also want to shout out a welcome to Tanner Automotive. I attended the ribbon cutting there on Friday afternoon. They're a general automotive business over on Irma Drive, so we wish them all the luck as they start up. And also I'd like to, and I may have to be guided on this, but I'd like to call on this council and ask you guys to either write a letter of support and or condemnation for support of the country of Israel and the atrocities that are going on over there, and the condemnation of the terrorist organization Hamas. So please help guide me on how we would go about that.
What does that typically look like, Corey?
It's as the council sees fit. We could certainly draft a resolution of support to place on the next agenda if that's council's desire.
Okay. Does anyone want to comment or respond to Councilmember Walker?
I'm fine with it. I think it's an atrocity, and it's just devastating. And the events that went on in New York yesterday too. So I am in favor of it.
Councilmember Long?
We have a family of Israelis that'll be staying in our home the next couple weeks. The husband is on his way to London now to see if he can't find his way home to Israel. Their son, regrettably, was in that celebration that was attacked, where all those people were massacred. So our prayers are going out to them. We're doing our level best to try to help them meet this terrible tragedy, which is senseless.
Councilmember Long, so do you support Councilmember Walker's request?
Absolutely.
Just check. Yeah.
All right, so
I just want to say I also support it strongly. I've been to Israel several times and made a lot of good friends there. So it's an atrocity. It's a massacre, and I'm in. Thank you for bringing that up.
thank you all for your support. I'll leave it to you, Mr. Corey.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That is it. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Brown?
Did Tom leave? I really do enjoy him leading us in prayer every week. It like lightens up council for me. I really do enjoy it. My NERA meeting is Wednesday, but that is also the day of the candidate forum. So I'm going to choose to do the candidate forum versus NERA. but I'll still have an update for you all at our next meeting. Chief, DC, I want to give you a heartfelt congratulations. I've been at Safeway 3 times in the last week. I have not seen one person, not one person, overdosing like I had, or the homeless situation. It felt very safe for the first time in a really long time to shop in Safeway. So I really appreciate that, and I wanted to let the residents know all the good work the police department's doing for us. I appreciate that very, very much. I normally don't address, and I know Corey shrugs when I say this, he just shrinks down. I don't normally address when people come up, the public invited to speak, mostly because, just a little background for residents that may be watching, where to take that information and where to move with that information and move forward. But today, I think it's very important to address the issue that was spoken incorrectly about the businesses in Northland. This council has never participated in hate crimes. Again, I resent, being a Polish American where I lost many of my family to the Nazis. I resent even being somebody saying that about me. It's a lie, and I know that it's a lie for everybody on this council. Our city businesses have continually told the city of Northland that they are very happy here, and they are happy with Northland and the service that business development does and the service that council does. We went out, not out of our way, but during COVID, we made sure our businesses were safe. We made sure that they had the funds that they needed to stay alive during COVID. We did multiple meet and greets, basically, where we had purchased gift certificates for the local residents that were given out at that time to booster our businesses and keep everybody on a right path. So I just take such offense to the lies that have been told about this council that I feel that I really do need to speak about it. Excuse me, we're in a meeting, Mr. Bromley. Mr. Bromley, we're in a meeting, you're in the audience, you must be quiet. And as parliamentarian, I never mentioned your name, Mr. Bromley. If you continue to speak, I will have Chief take you out. Okay, Chief, can you take him out? Because he obviously cannot shut up. So I take great offense to that. And now that Mr. Bromley has mentioned it was him, yes, I take great offense to that. We have never, ever, ever had hate crimes from this council. Thank you, Mayor. Sorry. Can you please get him out of the meeting?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have to take this.
Councilmember Jaramillo?
I'm leaving. I don't need to take this from her stuff. She does not need to be lying to people.
I'm the parliamentarian. You need to get out, Mr. Bromley. Thank you for your civil unrest. We appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Bromley.
Councilmember Jaramillo?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Chief and Deputy Chief. All right, so on October 1st, I attended Adams County's inaugural Festival Latino. It was a wonderful event of so many Latin, Hispanic, diaspora, the celebration of culture. It was packed. Like you couldn't even get in there. It was fantastic. So wonderful collaboration with Adams County, and I can say that the next 2 years that I'll be on council, I'll be collaborating with Adams County to continue to do this additional programming such as this. I also would like to observe Indigenous Peoples Today, not only in North America, but also in continents across the planet Earth. So I wanted to say that today, but also recognizing people every day for their contributions. I'd also like to address Breast Cancer Awareness Month. My grandmother, Antonia Garcia Fresquez, my mother's mother, died of breast cancer in 1994. So definitely hits home, and it's something that I encourage everybody to be screened, and male, female, however you see yourself, that's something to, keep your health going good because people love you. I also like to acknowledge the contributions of people of Italian and Sicilian descent for their contributions on humanity. So I have a lot of friends and loved ones who are Italian and Sicilian, so I want to also show them some love for sure. But also, I attended the North Glen Arts and Humanities Foundation Board of Directors event, and we have a campaign to raise funds for our public art that's going to be at the new the new City Hall. So if you're interested, I'll pass this on to everybody on council. But please, if you'd like to, please contribute anything you can for the arts here in North Glen. Most of the art that's contributed to the city of North Glen is gifted through the North Glen Arts and Humanities Foundation Board of Directors. So this is an opportunity for you to donate $250 to get your name on a brick and your family, and $1,500 and above. Which is, if you really are able to fund the arts. So we would appreciate if you're interested. I have a few more of these available, but pretty soon our city hall's coming up. It's going to be wonderful and beautiful, and you can have your name on there for 50 years, however long, 100 years, however long the city hall's there for. So this is your opportunity. So feel free to reach out to me, Councilmember Jaramillo, and I have more flyers I can send you to North Glen Arts and Humanities Foundation, or you can reach Michael Stricker at 303-450-8727. Thank you.
Councilmember Jaramillo, can
Yeah.
you explain to the residents that this is not a City of North Glen fundraiser? This is for,
This is for Arts and Humanities Foundation.
So that they don't get confused that the City of North Glen.
This isn't for the city, like the city proper. It's for a foundation that funds the arts. So this is a nonprofit organization, and they're the ones who put the sculptures out at E.B. Rains Park. They're the ones who put the sculptures in your neighborhood. All those wonderful sculptures, they're gifted to the city of North Glen. City of North Glen does not purchase them. They become assets of the city of North Glen. So this is your opportunity just to help fund it and also to receive some recognition. So
Thank you.
that's for, thank you.
Councilmember Goff?
Thank you, Mayor. So first I want to say, I have to go all the way back to September 29th, but I attended a meeting with CC4CA and the Colorado Energy Office staff and commissioners. And the point of the meeting was to develop ways to support each other better in the coming legislative session. Also, I just wanted to let everybody know or remind people that there will be a candidate forum this Wednesday at the Justice Center and also on Channel 8 or however we do our meeting, however you watch our city council meetings. And so if you want to get some more information about the candidates for the coming election, that would be a good way to do that. And then I also wanted to remind people that this is, for many people, this is Indigenous Peoples' Day, not necessarily a day that you would celebrate, but a day to honor the contributions and also the suffering of many Indigenous peoples. And I also would want to include that we celebrated the Italian Americans, and that Mr. Lampo in his prayer today encouraged us to come to peace with all the different kinds of people that are out there. And if there was just some way we could do that where you didn't say it's this day and then other people had their feelings hurt, or it's that day and then this group, we're all one planet, and I hope that we can continue to work towards. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Kondo?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Two items, both public service announcements, if you will. Actually, the first one is for the days. Rocky Flats Stewardship Council, we have our triennial reaffirmation and renewal of being part of that information nexus, if you will. So the IGA will be coming up for renewal here since the last 3-year period will be ending February 2024. And I would strongly recommend that we do continue to be a part of that, because it's really a great opportunity to make sure that we're on the leading edge of that information as it comes out from the Department of Energy and EPA, Environmental Protection Agency. Second is that we have our Ward 3 meeting at our beautiful Justice Center this coming Saturday, and that will be at 10 a.m. I know Saturday will be a busy day because not only we have that, then we have our Safe Streets Halloween. So you'll see both Dr. Goff and I in the morning, and then you'll probably see us in, or at least me, I'll be in costume somehow. Not sure what it is yet. I'm still trying to figure that out. But also Safe Streets Halloween that evening.
Check out Spirit on, by Safeway.
Really?
You know, get your
Is
outfit
that
there.
Shop
It's a
North
plug
Park.
for Spirit on 120th in Washington.
Very good. I'll be talking with you after the meeting. That's all I have, ma'am.
Thank you. Councilmember Long?
I have 5 items. 4 will be pretty quick, but one is going to take a little bit of time. Number 1, I attended the annual breakfast along with Shannon Lukeman Hiramosa, a fellow council person from Ward 4. The early childhood partnership of Adams County. It was a very moving experience listening to lots of folks and their testimonials and the good things they're doing for the children of Adams County. I can't say enough good things about how they're reaching out, putting people together with the services they really need. There's a lot more to be done, but these folks are in the right direction. Secondly, I attended the Adams County Regional Economic Partnership, its executive committee, and we spent nearly 3 hours talking about strategic review and planning for the upcoming year 2024 with all of the other Adams County representatives from cities and economic development groups. My third thought is to hearken to what Jay has just said. The Latino Festival was fantastic. I got to tell you, I told him earlier, I could not find parking. I mistakenly thought, wow, I'll come around at 1 o'clock now. Oh, my goodness. Traffic was in every direction. The roundabout was clogged, and I mean, I had to walk, quite a while. But it was worth it, well worth it.
Problems, right?
With great feelings and good folks. And I want to put out a shout to my friends at the Cheyenne River Reservation, my Minneconjou folks that are always there helping me think through some of the history of their tribe, which we try to do and respect when we do our historical writings. So a shout out to them on this special day. Also, I want to give a plug to Ward 4, October 26th. We're having our meeting at the Justice Center. And look forward to all our Ward 4 participants, anybody else who might want to chime in. The other meeting that I attended was the Ward 2 meeting. And after a great deal of thought, I challenged myself to get the words right. And in so doing, I championed the support of the city clerk, the city attorney, and also the city manager to get a better understanding of Fair Campaign Practices Act and what you do if you find somebody with wayward actions or statements or thoughts that are not quite right. Unfortunately, the Fair Campaign Practices Act that we have as an ordinance in the city of North Glen, if you act upon it, it takes 60 to 90 days to have a hearing. Well, by then, the election is far gone, and who would really care anyway, coming into January, February, if we had a hearing? So I'm going to be drafting a resolution to present to council, perhaps take it up in a study group, to look at a more home rule, homebound response for our community, for our city, in terms of the possibility of finding wayward actions, I would say, in terms of misappropriation of city events and doing the wrong thing at the wrong time. I'm going to share one of them with you tonight because it really is egregious in my estimation. That was the Ward 2 meeting, where Councilmember Brown saw fit to endorse her replacement on city council. And in no uncertain terms, had this particular individual stand next to her at the podium as she endorsed him and encouraged everyone in the audience to please take a placard that he was distributing around. Unbeknownst to her was the other Ward 2 candidate in the back. who had to finally, at the end of the meeting, stand up, wave her arm, introduce herself in order to be recognized by those in the crowd. And at that moment, Councilmember Brown said, "Oh, I didn't see you back there. Welcome." But it was too late. The damage had been done. She stood, and I could see she was visibly upset, but just the same, with courage, she waved to everyone in the room, or the grounds there and the lawn, and said, "Here I am. I'm a candidate for Ward 2. Please consider me on November 7th." And so as I pursued possibility of having something take place, again, because of the timing of things, it stretches 60 to 90 days hence, so there'll be no necessary formal action, even though I sorely thought fit to do as such. So with that, there'll be another resolution that I'll be drafting along with the idea of the Fair Campaign Practices Act. Modification, let's say, for the city of Northland, so we can take care of these things and address these things on a more timely basis. Thank you.
Mayor, can I clarify just one thing?
Yes.
The person that stood up, every candidate in every ward reached out to me. I have spoken with every candidate in every ward. I told you guys that they were contacting me months ago. Those of you that are running unopposed, obviously nobody, came to me. So she never reached out to me. She never picked up the phone. How was I to know who she was? I wish her the best of luck in the election. But I did speak with every candidate. And I will continue to do that about what life on council is like, what fellow council people are like, things like that, because people need to be aware of what they're walking into when they're sitting at this bench. So I did not know her. Otherwise, I would have also introduced her, but she has not stepped out to introduce herself to me, and I didn't notice she was running until after that day. So I apologize for her if her feelings were hurt. She's more than welcome to reach out to me if she has any questions about Ward 2 and the things that we have going on there. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Long, can I get clarification? You said you're drafting a resolution. I don't believe.
I'm going to draft a resolution based on the ordinance that currently is in place and maybe shine a little bit to reduce the timing of things so we can act more timely, if you will, when it's taking place during the election cycle. Because the way it looks right now, the way it reads now, it's way after the fact that there's even a hearing on any misstatements.
Okay.
And thank you for asking. And I'll do my best to put the right words. I'll check through the hierarchy here and have them critique my words.
Okay. I don't believe it'll come before council unless council agrees to have it.
I understand that.
Okay.
I'm still gonna draft it to have it out there.
Okay.
And just for clarification, I would never, ever think to grab a microphone and endorse a candidate from the dais as I'm running the meeting. I would never think to do that.
Okay. I was just clarifying
Yeah, sure.
what you were requesting. Okay. Great. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will start with a request for council. I would love for us, if everyone agrees, to have a study session on the No Need for Speed program, to take another look at it since its inception. It's been a couple of years, to go ahead and look at the streets that have qualified, not qualified, and the measures being done. And the reason I bring this up is because of Melody Drive. Melody Drive, there was a study just recently conducted, which I'm not sure if all of you are aware of or not, and it did not qualify by 0.2 of a point, 0.2 of a mile per hour, however you say that. And there is still a street meeting that is in the process of being scheduled. I don't believe it hasn't been scheduled yet, but so keep an eye out for that. But I think we need to take another look at, where there might be cases that council could step in, and I don't want to use the words override, but maybe take a look at a street such as Melody where We know there are definite issues with speeding that continue, and maybe the timing of the study didn't quite capture it or not. I know it's accurate, and I know a lot of hard work goes into it, and I appreciate our engineers and everything they do as well, and our police. But I've experienced it, and I know several others have experienced it and seen it as well. There's homes that have damage on Melody from cars plowing in and so forth. So it's just to take another look. I do believe that the resident input is still very important, which is what that study was designed for, right? And I don't want to take that out because some residents would say, well, I don't like speed humps. I don't want speed humps. Where there's like, can you please put speed humps? Or I don't want the roundabout. So I think it's very important for us to continue that council input. But if everybody is amenable to it, I would love to take another look at that, just so we can talk about where we step in, where we don't, or what needs to happen, if that's okay with everyone. Okay, thank you. Okay.
Yep.
Yes.
All right, excellent. So on to my actual communications. As Councilmember Long mentioned, I also attended the Early Childhood Partnership of Adams County. So I won't talk too much about that, except that they're a fantastic organization. Early childhood development is important. It's so important. And the stories that you hear are amazing of people that have been helped. So great organization. I attended this is, I think, very important, the swearing in of Sergeant Kelly Shelley to Lieutenant. So yeah, I would love to just give her an applause because she is so amazing and it's such a well-deserved promotion. And then, of course, on top of that, to have a female in that rank of lieutenant is incredible. It just speaks volumes of our police department and how they encourage and foster professional development in our police officers. And she's been with the department, what, 26 something years? 26 years. So, woo, shout out to her. I attended the Ralston House fundraiser. What a great organization. Yes, and Councilmember Jaramillo was there and our mayor was there. So what a great organization. Always happy to support them as well and all the good that they do. Festival Latino. I have been very honored to serve on the Hispanic Heritage Committee along with Councilmember Jaramillo. It's been great, and then to see the final product was fantastic, working with Adams County. I also hope to be a part of that in the future, fingers crossed. But it was fantastic. I ate all the food, I sat and listened to all the music, just a lot of fun. Got to speak a little bit of Spanish, I'm a little rusty, but it was a great event, so packed and a huge success. Youth Commission, I attended the Youth Commission, and a couple of big updates for them. I will give a shout out to Councilmember Brown, and kudos to her for helping them with their drug addiction project. They are looking at receiving some naloxone training during one of their meetings.
Good.
As a result of that, so I thought that was really cool. And also, they have this huge project coming up, and they're doing a youth addiction as a broad topic contest throughout Adams 12 schools. And it will be a poster contest, and they're accepting submissions November 9th through December 7th. And hopefully they will choose a winner around December 19th, which is one of their work meetings. And possibly, maybe the winner, I just sent an email out about this, can come to council and receive an award or something in January. But that has to go through Amanda, so I'll send that to her. They're just doing really great things, great kids. They have a new member who will come forth for an interview as well pretty soon, and a couple of others in the queue. So I'm excited to see the Youth Commission grow. Also attended Tanner Automotive ribbon cutting on Irma Drive. Go for them for all your automotive needs, easy for me to say. And then last but not least, today, we had our legislative committee update, committee meeting, not a lot of updates. Couple of things that we're hoping will come through legislation. Construction defect legislation will be key, and the right to cure in order to get more condos. That's a problem with getting that condo development. So that's something to look out for. October 13th, CML is having a policy committee meeting, which Councilmember Walker will be attending. And on October 20th, CML will have their executive board meeting, which I will be attending, and that we'll discuss a little bit more of legislative issues coming down the pipeline. For council information for you all, we hope to have a legislative guide sometime in late November, coming forth to council for approval. And then our legislative dinner is scheduled for December 12th with Rep. Wilford, for sure. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to not repeat other items and bring you some new things that I've been working on. So Finance Committee met, which was great. Always love that. Metro Mayor's Caucus met last week, and we heard from CML. We had lots of presentations, but we also heard from Mayor Johnston in Denver and got some updates on his homelessness initiatives and their response to all of the refugees that are coming to the state. And so that was really informative. And I know he also met with the Adams County Commissioners to work through some solutions, because it really is impacting not just Denver, but also the region. Super excited about Safe Street. Come out, come see us. I'm gonna have a little trunk. I got my costume all ready. There's a theme, little 80s theme. I can't wait. Just feels like I was, kind of born to dress like that. Surprisingly, my daughter thought I had all those items in my closet. I do not, but it wasn't hard to pick out my favorite things. And I can't wait to see what Chief has created, because he's such an artist, and so it'll be really fun to see what he's made. And I know Brandon was helping too, so that'll be cool. CCPP tomorrow. One of the things I'm really excited about, and Catherine, I wish I could take you in my pocket, but I will be presenting on a panel at the Climate Solutions Summit in Vail next week. As part of the U.S. Conference of Mayors, I also sit on the Climate Mayors Group, and so I was invited, and I'm so excited. So I'll tell you how that is when I get back, but I'll definitely have you on my shoulder and in my ear, so I'm very excited for that. And that's all I have. So City Clerk Small, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you, Mayor. Just one quick update. Wanted to let everybody know that ballots for the November 7th election will be mailed out by the counties beginning next Monday, October 16th. If voters do not receive their ballot by Friday, October 20th, please call the Adams County Election Department. If anyone in the community needs assistance registering to vote or updating their voter registration information, please contact the city clerk's office or stop by our office, and we would be happy to help you with that. And that's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. City Manager Guyer.
I'm going to share a heartwarming story with all of you this evening in relationship to a new service program that the police department's offering, which is the weekly video report that's being pushed out on Facebook. It's the second week this past Friday that this was done, and it's a work in progress, and so please share feedback with Chief and Deputy Chief on that service. It is starting to get more reach. The heartwarming part of it is this. On Thursday night, I was walking my dog in my neighborhood and ran into a resident neighbor of mine who had a lost cat. Well, she was putting signs up throughout the neighborhood, and when I saw the video, I think it was Saturday or Sunday morning, I watched it, I saw that cat.
Oh.
So I called my neighbor because I had her phone number and said, hey, did you see this? She had actually already seen the video, went to the animal shelter, was able to pick up the cat. The cat is severely injured, but the PD had highlighted that one of the calls they responded to was a cat who had been severely injured, reported by a neighbor, and so the cat is home and is long road to recovery, but I thought I'd just share that with you because that's a great example of the power of the reach of that new program that the PD is offering. So thanks.
Hello, Corey.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of council. I actually do have a couple of things to report tonight. First, I spent the weekend in Crested Butte, but not for fun, actually at the CML Municipal Attorneys Conference. And I guess the one message I came away with more than anything is the topic about impacts of people experiencing homelessness was talked about a lot. And I would say that in terms of moving forward on steps to address that, in my view, based on what everyone else is doing across the state, North Glen is at the front of coming up with various options compared to others. So it was pretty impressive to hear what was happening and at the same time, to see that we're doing more, frankly. Secondly, I did send an email out to council about joining a coalition related to determining a question that has been pending for nearly a decade about who is responsible for street lighting on the interstate highway, whether it is the city or whether it is CDOT. And there is a coalition that is seeking to have the PUC decide this because they actually have a tariff related to XL. So if no council member has any objection, I would highly recommend North Glen joining that coalition to get the certainty as to who is responsible, the city or CDOT, for paying those costs. Okay, excellent. And last but not certainly not least, and I may be going outside my lane a little bit, but thank you for directing me to do the resolution. As the son of an Israeli paratrooper, it's particularly meaningful. So thank you.
Okay, we will welcome our interim Deputy City Manager, Jason Loveland, for the August 2023 financial update.
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. I'll try to cruise through this. We have a lot of numbers I'm going to share with you throughout the night. So, August 2023 sales and use tax is up 3.3% when we compare that to the prior year. We're actually kind of trending downward for the last couple of months overall, but still looking at meeting our budget forecast of 3% growth from the prior year budget. So that's a positive, but more to come in the next couple of months on kind of where our trajectory is heading. Within the sales and use tax, specifically auto use tax is still up around 9%. Food tax is really doing well at over 12% up. And then sales tax very specific, is up 2.6%. And then the marijuana tax that we've discussed is down just over 12%. So skipping ahead to the fund summaries, I'll go through these. On the sheets, we have a column titled collection rate. So we're at 66% of the period through the year. So on the revenue side, those amounts will fluctuate as far as being above or below collection rate, just based off of various timing that comes in through the year. Revenues in the general fund are up 1.8%. You'll see taxes down about 1.4%. Mostly due to use tax, specifically construction use tax, is down 18%. That's just a matter of one-time funds being collected from one year to the next, 2023 being lighter on the construction side than 2022. Other areas, licenses and permits, same concept, one-time revenues in 2022 are not being seen at the same rate in 2023, so that's down 22%. Charges for services on a positive side, those are up 27%. A lot of that is actually, interestingly, occupational fees paid from Comcast and XL, who are doing a lot of work throughout the community. So we're seeing some of that. And also some plan review fees make up that $500,000 increase year over year. So in total, general fund revenues through August are at $22.4 million. And in line overall with the budget that we had projected and planned for at the start of the year. On the expenditure side, on the next page, page 3, we have this divided into departmental categories. You'll see total operating expenditures are at 59.8% spending throughout the year. This is typical. Total expenditures in the fund are at $21.6 million. That's actually, I'll skip up to the operating expenditure side, $21.5 million, which is up $2 million over the prior year. Total expenses are up 10% year over year. We did have a budget planned of expenditures to be up between 9 to 10%, so they're in line overall with the budget. But in comparison, from year to year, they are up, but that's as planned. Two areas, Parks and Recreation and Public Works. Those budgets are 15 to 20% higher than they were last year. That's capital expenditure timing on their end. So overall, all the departments in the general fund are in good shape. I should not have paper because I fumble it. But collecting my thoughts, that was not a that was not a Bronco comment.
Too soon.
Yeah, I heard Corey a little bit and was like, oh my goodness. So no fumbling. So the water fund, in other news, water fund revenues are at $8.6 million on the operating side of things. That's down 8%. We've talked about all of the rain that we received this summer, which was fantastic. Water use is down 25%. That's reflected in the revenues here. So in that water charges line, I was comparing to the prior year, our collection rate's at 49%. Typically, that's about 75% through August, through the watering season. So we are down there, and we will not catch that up. We will fall short of estimates based on the rainfall for the year. Total expenditures in the fund are at $8.9 million, again, in line with the budget that was planned. In the blue box down below, water usage, revenue specifically at $4.1 million, again, down significantly compared to the prior year. Food tax, which is supported here, of $850,000, you can see that at 12.5%, or just about $96,000. So overall, the fund is in good shape, less the rainfall aspect. On the wastewater funds, total revenues are just under $3.8 million and expenditures of $3.5 million. The first line in the revenue, wastewater charges, those are down, well, they're actually up 1.2%. We're actually expecting a little bit more, but tap fees associated with Carl's Farm in 2022 were about $233,000. So we're seeing pretty flat revenue growth, although we plan for rate increases and we're achieving those. We just have some offsetting revenue differential there. And then again, on the expenditures, everything is in line with the budget. I should have a page 6 somewhere. That would be the stormwater fund. Stormwater revenues are $401,000, expenses $185,000. You'll see the first line there, stormwater charges on the revenue side is down about 11%, or $35,000. $38,000 of that was collected in 2022 for one-time tap fees, which is why it's showing a decrease in revenue overall. But otherwise, operationally and on the capital side of things, the stormwater fund is performing as expected and in good shape. I want to skip to page 11 of the packet to look at the geographic areas and how they're performing on the sales tax side of things. You'll see kind of in the middle of the page, the percent change, 23 to 22 is flat. It's 0.04%, or $5,700 on a $13 million line item. But you'll see most of the actual geographic area within the city is down across the board. That trend continued for September as well, so I'll report on that next month, but that trend is continuing. You'll see at the top of the page, the out-of-state, or we'll call it kind of the online shopping, is performing well, over 5.5%. checking the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, August CPI numbers, or Consumer Price Index for all categories in the Denver metro area, we're up 3.7%. So if we're seeing sales tax lag behind the inflation, that is something that obviously we're going to keep a closer eye on as the year progresses. So just wanted to make note of that. It's really the last 2 months that we've seen kind of a decline in sales as compared to what had been going on the first, 5 or 6 months of the year. So wanted to share that. With that, I am done, and I will grab my papers.
Okay, well, we have
And answer any
questions for you.
questions at the same time.
Yes, I was like, don't
Just
run
don't make
away.
me flip a page.
Good try.
Councilmember Brown.
I just wanted to let you know, and so that Heather and the rest of council knows, in the meeting last month for the Marijuana State Board, we've lost 2 major grow houses. So how this will affect Northland is the fact that that marijuana was brought into Northland for sales. So losing 2 grow houses or grow operations completely folding, I just worry about, we're down to 12% or whatever. I'm really worried about what that's going to do. So that's my normal pitch. But it sounds, when you listen to the conversations, it sounds like, they over forecasted based on COVID. So now they're taking losses and, basically having to destroy product because it's not selling fast enough. So I just want to make sure that I let you know that.
Thank you.
Councilmember Long.
Again, with all due respect, Jason, I'm having a very difficult time getting my head around your numbers. I'll call your attention to pages 4, 5, and 6. And I'm trying to figure, for the life of me, how you budgeted for $9 million in losses for 2023. That's what the budget shows. Now I'm roller skating through your numbers as you presented them with those same 3 major funds: water, wastewater, and stormwater. All I'm seeing are negative numbers supplanted by other financing sources slipping across on the water fund to shore that up. I'm assuming that we have reserves in the water fund, and that's what you drew from?
We do have reserves in all of these funds, and so these are for one-time capital expenditures.
One-time capital.
Yep.
You're not gonna do it again if we go underwater, huh? Excuse the expression, fun.
Well, we wouldn't have the funding to do the capital projects if.
Yeah, that's what
if
I'm,
they were not
that's what I'm
available.
saying to you. So now, you present us with a budget that we're gonna review tonight with our good people in the audience, public review. And you budgeted for 3 negative sums for 2023. I don't know how, quite honestly, the Council Finance Committee didn't see fit to challenge that. Again, I'm going over last year's storyline. I appreciate that, but I'm talking about going forward here. I just don't see, quite honestly, Jason, the reality of the numbers. I'm really in a tough spot here. And with all due respect to the fellow folks on the dais, perhaps I should just take time out and you and I sit down together and have a session so I better understand what these numbers are, instead of castigating blows and making suspicions out there, because I do not see how these numbers jive. I mean, I tried.
Councilmember Long, I think that's a great idea, because they make sense to some of us. So I think it's a great idea for you to spend time with Jason and get clear
Saying
on.
these numbers make sense to you? Huh?
Yeah.
Oh, for Pete's sakes.
Yeah, so I guess I do think it would be a good,
I'll do this. I'll make a point to do this, but quite honestly, I don't know how you do these numbers. I don't.
Yeah, so the one thing on the monthly financials that we don't include, we do this more on a quarterly basis, is showing the reserve levels, where those stand, and then seeing what the impact of a budget that's gonna use funds, does to the overall fund. But presenting next, I will talk about that in the 2024 proposed budget, and we can look at what that.
Let me just share this with you, if I might. This is a matter of public information, is it not?
Yes.
This report, correct? If I'm out there and I happen as a resident who might know something about numbers, who might be curious, as I look at these numbers, I would be asking the question, whether or not I was sitting up here or not. They just don't add up. They just don't.
Councilmember Jaramillo?
Thank you, Mayor. On the tax collected by geographic code, one particular business stands out to me is Mile High Thrift. I know they only accept cash. It feels like they're operating as a nonprofit, but I don't believe they are a nonprofit. Can we speak to that with tax revenue?
I don't know the exact question that you're asking necessarily.
Like what do
They are, I can say that they're one of our top performing stores, but I don't know the cash versus the for-profit or nonprofit. I'm not.
Okay, because I feel like they operate like they're doing something for the veterans, but I don't feel like they do. It's kind of like a facade, I feel. But what I'm getting at is, do you think they're paying their fair share of tax revenue to the city by only accepting cash?
Yeah, I don't have no reason to not believe that they are. We have not, I'm trying to recall an audit of their business, but whether they're collecting payment through cash or not, they would have records indicating their collections and reconciliations and whatnot.
Right, I just understand they're super busy all the time, and I figure I mean, I'm sure we've had great years, in 2021, 2022, but that's just something that comes to mind for me when I go there and I can't accept a credit card or debit card.
Yeah.
That's our direct way to get tax revenue, is just right there.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Just to clarify?
Yeah.
Why would there be a difference between a credit card payment and a cash payment? Because my taxes always show what I'm paying in my city tax and whatever is always on my receipt that I get from them. I'm just not understanding the difference between a credit card payment and, I hate paying cash there too. I always go to the bank first. But I'm just having a hard time understanding what you're saying.
I mean, paying under the table kind of stuff, or, think about anything that deals with cash.
Are you making allegations?
I'm just saying, are they,
You're asking.
I'm asking, is there a reason why they don't pay, they only earn cash?
So there's a lot of fees associated with credit card.
2.5% of
And
it.
businesses don't always like to pay those fees. It's pretty expensive to take credit cards. But I do think we need to be careful about what we're asking. So maybe this is also an offline question for Jason?
Okay,
Yeah,
I just figured since they were featured on there as a,
as a tax-paying business.
yes, and I'm like,
Yes.
okay. No offense, I go and shop there too sometimes.
But is there anything in this report that would give you an indication that there's a problem?
I would just say that they're the only one on there I feel is the only that does not accept credit card or debit card. I feel like every other business,
But we don't know that. We haven't gone to every business. So
I
I
just
hear what
about have
you're
been to every
asking.
business that here.
I hear what you're asking, but I think we should take that question offline.
Okay.
Thank you. Councilmember Condo?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to go to page 20, the overtime slide. And what is noticeable for me is I see that the month of August 2023, the police have somewhere north of 1,200 hours of overtime. I think that's just the month of August if I'm looking at the bar chart. So I'm just trying to reconcile. I know that we have more police officers, and I was thinking that since July, overtime should start to go down. I wonder, Chief May or Deputy Chief, if you can explain why overtime is still high.
Mayor, Council, good evening. Yeah, those overtime dollars are high, but currently we're down 10. And then we have another, it's probably 23 bodies that aren't working the road with either in training, FMLA, or injured. So that's a huge percentage. So those shifts and everything else are being filled by other officers. That's why those numbers are what they are still. So we don't have relief yet. So I can tell you that overtime, when I see those numbers, it's cringeworthy for sure. But as soon as we're fully staffed, it's the responsibility of the sergeants, lieutenants, commanders to manage those overtime funds. So hopefully over the next several years coming after that, we can deal with that appropriately.
Got you. Follow on. Do we feel good that we're still able to maintain a 3-shift structure?
Yeah, I do not want to go back to 12s, and we're fragile right now, so if we have people leave or injured or hurt or have babies, which I get plenty of notice on, but we are until we start having bodies fall in. So currently, we're finishing up our several in the FTO program, where we'll be putting them on the street at the end of the month in mid-November. And then we have the graduation class that's coming out of 6 that are doing really well in the academy, but we won't see them till next summer, or late spring, I should say. And that's another 6 officers that'll be put on the street. And we are trying our best to fill 10 slots for the academy in January. And we're really close to do that, so.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. I don't see any more questions.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving into the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve. Second.
Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
Councilmember Burns, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you.
Hang on. Hit me with a yes, please, Joanna. Here, wait, I found it.
Okay,
Sorry, I have a couple windows open.
totally fine. Alrighty, I will close that vote, and the consent agenda passes unanimously.
Okay, we have a couple public hearings tonight. The first one is our 2024 Annual Operating and Capital Improvement Budget. Jason Loveland, our interim deputy city manager, will provide a presentation of the proposed 2024 budget prior to the public hearing. No? No. I should listen to my own words. Prior to me hitting the gavel, Jason
Oh,
is going to speak.
how do you take that back? I'm not sure. Well, hello again.
Hello.
This presentation is pretty much exactly what we had talked about on September 11th, so I'll kind of go through it at a pretty high level for everyone. So, as mentioned, we're here for the public hearing on the 2024 proposed budget. Cover a range of topics at a pretty high level, key revenues, key expenditures, and kind of an overview of fund summaries and fund balance and capital projects. So overall, 2024, once again, looking to be in a strong financial position as we have continued to be over the past several years. One element there regarding the financial position is that we're expecting in the general fund specifically to have a reserve balance of just over 30% of our fund balance. We've, maintained a goal of having a 25% fund balance, and we'll continue, I believe that's at 32% through 2024. Again, as we go through the process that starts in May, or I don't know if it ever ends, we continue to take a look at the alignment of resources with our desired services and make sure that we're taking kind of, the immediate need, short-term approach, but also looking into the future and making sure that we're in a good, stable position for the long horizon. I'll skip ahead to the fund summaries. So the column on the right is really what council, when this comes forward for approval, is really what council is adopting by fund, and total expenditures for the 2024 proposed budget of $68.9 million. You'll see the major funds there, the general fund being just under $38 million for the budget for 2024. Also in the water fund, a large budget, $10.8 million, and the wastewater fund, $7.3 million. So that's really, you can see what occurred in 2022, what was approved in 2023. A lot of that is capturing one-time capital, as we just discussed. And then in 2024, the assumption of those large projects coming off the books is why the budget is, half of what it was in 2023. That is why that happens.
So that's, for instance, Carl's Farm, how we did all the,
really, it's City Hall, some other large capital projects.
well, we did most of the construction or building or whatever road in 2022, right? 21?
Yes, the road,
22.
Carl's Farm, the road, that was a $17 million project. City Hall, $33 to $35 million project. Some of the lift stations and what have you. So we have made significant, as you guys are aware, as the approval and the directors of what we're doing here, significant capital investment throughout the city, water, wastewater plants, roadways, and then facilities as well. So we'll see that proposed budget, like I said, at $68.9 million.
Madam Mayor, point of clarification.
Sure.
Is this an open dialogue amongst everyone on the dais, or are we going to be recognized when we speak?
I'm stunned. Sorry. Jason is presenting.
That's what he's presenting, but we were
Raise your hand.
interrupted by the parliamentarian.
Got it.
He said plain.
Got it.
So on the next slide, we'll take a look at the general fund. And here I think is where we can capture some of, not necessarily in this fund, but in some of the other funds, kind of that use or expenditures greater than revenues year over year. So in this fund, we'll see total revenue being estimated at $37.7 million, total expenditures of $37.9. That does show a net change in fund balance of negative $261,000. Around $500,000 of that, of the expenditures in this fund are one-time in nature for different projects. The studies that we're going to do on climate, the study that we're going to do at the marketplace, Section 36, all of those are one-time expenditures. So operational stance, if we were not using those one-time dollars, we would have a budget that's actually adding to the fund balance. So I just wanted to point that out on, while it does show a small negative as forecast, those are due to the one-time expenditures for those projects. I do want to note that compared to what was presented on September 11th, the expenditures did increase $78,000 for the CRSA inclusion of their new quote that we received. So if you're comparing September 11th to today, that should be off $78,000 on the expenditure side. The general fund 5-year forecast, this is kind of a work in progress on a really an ongoing basis. You'll see 32% fund balance at the end of 2024, and then how things project out as we move forward. we talked about this at the last meeting when it was presented. We make some minor modifications based off of information that we received at the time. So the overall impact when we get out, spread out through the 5 years is negative. I guess it's less negative than it was a month ago, but it's still something that we want to monitor. Councilmember Kondo mentioned last month, this does not include the question that we have on the ballot being passed and being able to be utilized. That would make a difference starting in the 2026 forecast and moving forward if that tax extension were to pass. Here's just a visual of that same information specific to fund balance. Conservation Trust Fund, total expenditures, just over $1 million. And all of this is detailed on the capital side in slides as we go through. I'm going to skip ahead to the revenues and not just read numbers on the fund summaries to you. We can always go back if you have a question. But total revenues projected for 2024 are, as I mentioned, across all funds, $72.8 million. You'll see broken up here in this chart, taxes, user fees and charges, and so forth. You'll see a big decrease in the intergovernmental. That's due to the federal grant for 120th project of $10 to $12 million is why that shows there. Otherwise, pretty static and conservative revenue forecast as per kind of the usual course of action as defined by our policies. So on the sales and use tax growth estimate, 3% is being forecast over the 2023 year-end estimates. As I mentioned in the August update, we are, kind of trailing off on the tax revenue collections through the year, but we're still on target to meet those budget numbers for 2023. Again, this is a month-to-month analysis that will be monitored and modified as necessary. But I think for now to adopt the budget and have a plan, we're still in good shape. Nothing significant. A large business has not left the city, which would cause us stress as far as making modification to any revenue estimates at this time. On the property tax side of things, as mentioned, preliminary assessed valuation was up 25% year over year. Statewide ballot question, Proposition HH, as estimated and forecast by the treasurer, Adams County Treasurer, we could see potentially a $600,000 decrease in revenues. I did talk with the treasurer and they informed me that it is very, 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 very preliminary estimate of the impact. So I know that they still have a lot of work to do on that side of things, but I do want to mention that that would have an impact, about $400,000 to the general fund, which would be less than 1% of the revenue, but $400,000 is still $400,000, and then a couple $100,000 to the capital projects fund that goes to support road projects. So there's an impact there. Sales tax. This just kind of shows the past several years and what we estimate for 2023 and moving on to 2024. Other key revenue areas based on our rate study and plan, water rate increases and wastewater increases of 2% and 5.25% respectively as part of a 10-year plan. Small impact, relatively small impacts continue, $1 to $2 on the water side and a little over $1 per month on the wastewater users. Other key expenditures, this reminds me of a pencil. I tried to flip the colors and it really just looked like an upside down pencil, so I left it the same. But you can see here, personnel being the largest portion of our expenditure budget, besides capital, but $34 million on personnel for the 2024 proposed budget. Capital, the next biggest of just under $12 million. We will expect probably several millions of dollars to carry over from 2023's budget to 2024, specific to the City Hall project. So we'll be increasing that budget in the spring once we reconcile and identify exactly what dollars are rolling from one budget period to the next. You'll see we label it as debt service. So for our long-term outstanding obligations, an investment of about $5.6 million annually on those. So that includes the wastewater treatment, Justice Center, and recreation facility. Breaking down personnel a little bit deeper, you can see regular wages make up the majority of the personnel line item of just under $27 million. And you can see medical benefits and retirement contributions and so forth. On the personnel side of things for 2024, market and merit adjustments are being proposed. You can read about those here with 2% for non-sworn employees, 5% for police officers and sergeants, and then merit pay 3% as a recommendation for a non-sworn and then sworn staff that are not in step plan, which is sworn officers that are not called police officers or sergeants, getting 7% and 6% respectively. Again, adding or proposing 5.46 full-time equivalent positions to the fund. Parks operations manager, a stage manager to help assist with the theater performances, sergeant, a digital technician. We have a reclassification, and then a laboratory technician for the support the utility funds, water and sewer. And then again, the police overhire concept, including the opportunity to overhire, if you will, if available, when they do the recruitment, 5 additional officers. Here's a breakdown of staffing levels, getting the total to about 346 FTE. This includes all of the seasonal positions as well as just the regular full-time and regular part-time staff. Here's a breakdown of capital projects. As you'll see, by fund. So while not what we've done the last couple of years, we're leveling off to kind of more normal investments in our capital, as you can see here. And here's just a breakdown, slide by slide, of some of those capital projects. I think in the Conservation Trust Fund, funded by lottery proceeds, a couple of big projects to take note of are the tunnel and skate park safety improvements that are being studied and evaluated. And then also there's a south parking lot at Northwest Open Space that could use some TLC. So that's also budgeted in the Conservation Trust Fund. On the capital projects fund side of things, the aquatic adventure course is something that we've discussed a few times. Then investments in our roads, mostly with the residential street program, traffic signals, concrete program, street sidewalks, traffic lights, all super important things that the city really needs to invest in on an ongoing basis. Also some parking lot repairs on city-owned facilities, places like the parks, and getting those parking lots invested in. And then temporary traffic calming of $250,000 for a total in the capital projects fund of $4.5 million. In the water fund, a really cool project, the aquifer storage and recovery to really help us with our water assets. And then other rehabilitation and investments in our underground infrastructure that nobody sees, but hopefully everyone appreciates. Similar situation in the wastewater fund and stormwater funds and long-term obligations. So balances at the start of 2024 for our different issuances that we have outstanding. We'll still owe about $33.3 million on this overall civic campus site. The Justice Center, $14.6 million, and $20.8 million on the lift station A and force main project that we did for the wastewater fund. Happy to answer any questions. Our next action, if things go well tonight, would be the adoption of the budget as scheduled for October 23rd. So,
We have a couple questions right now.
great.
Councilmember Kondo?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have 4 questions. I wonder if we can go back to slide 25. You talked about water rate increases of 2% as well as wastewater 5.25. Between 23 and 27, is that a year-over-year increase, or those increases applying for that 4-year window?
I think I missed the question. Sorry.
I'm
on
just trying to make
slide
sure on
25.
slide 25, your water rate increases of 2% and wastewater of 5.25. Is that going to be per annum each
Yes.
year? Next question, slide 28. Merit pay increases. And maybe this may be better addressed for chief or deputy chief, but receiving that merit pay, is that informed by performance evaluations? So in other words, if an officer met performance expectations, then by default, they get the merit increase. Is that how that works? I'm just seeking to understand how
So
that
it's
works.
based off of the STEP program that we have identified for both officers and sergeants.
Okay.
So yes, if they are meeting expectations and the timing of 1 year, yes, that would be received at that time.
We got it. Deputy, did you want to add any?
It's correct. If they meet their expectations on the performance evaluations, then they get the merit pay at their seniority date for that year.
Okay, understand, thank you. Slide 30, again, just for my understanding, economic development, is that under the city manager account?
Yes. So city manager includes the administrative side, economic development, communications, which includes special events, and also the crisis response unit. They're all under the city manager.
Gotcha, thank you. Slide 33, Civic Center site work. This is the very last line item for $1.5 million. That's the demolition of the old rec center. Am I thinking about that correctly?
Demolition and remediation. Yep.
And I think I remember that number. Thank you. Slide 37. I'm a little bit confused because I was thinking that the new city hall, we were paying for that all in cash. So I'm just trying to figure out where that civic campus certificate of participation of 33 million is.
Yes.
Help me understand that.
So that's really the recreation in Parsons Theater and Memorial Parkway.
Okay.
And Festival Lawn, kind of all, that whole bundle of initial.
Gotcha. So the rec center and all those improvements. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Councilmember Goff?
Thank you. So Jason, mine's, I think, pretty simple, but when you were talking about projected sales tax over the, how many, do you base that on existing businesses?
Yes.
Because we have pros coming on, so that would be, and then whatever that QT, we've got some businesses that will be coming on and contributing to sales tax, but that would be beyond what you were presented.
Yes, it would be, yep.
I think that's great.
Very conservative.
Yeah,
Don't-
yeah.
Don't do it until it actually happens.
Don't count your chickens till the eggs.
Yes, that saying.
Thank you. Councilman Long?
Hello. I got a few questions.
Okay.
As you might expect. So we're not going to have any certificates of participation for City Hall at all,
Correct.
correct?
Correct.
On page 13, the general fund storyline. At the end of 2022, ending fund balance is 15,440. And yet, the beginning fund balance in 2023 is 14 million. Now, I quickly draw your attention to ending fund balance at the end of 2023, which is 12,382,000. Proposed budget 24 is that same number. So at the end of 23, 12.3 million. Beginning proposed 24, it's 12.4, the same number. Why isn't the same number being transmuted from 15.4 to the top of 2023? All of a sudden, there's a slide of 15.4 goes to 13, call it 14.
Great question. So at the time that we do the budgets, we don't know what the beginning fund balance number is because we're making an estimate. So this line does cause confusion and probably should be cleaned up. But the $15.4 million at the end of 2022 is the actual fund balance. The 2023 budget column is really just a function of what we had forecast when we were preparing the 2023 budget, which was off by $1.5 million, you can see. But we leave that in there just to have consistency if somebody was to open the budget book and say, you didn't budget $15.4 million, you budgeted 13.9. So that's the discrepancy when you're looking at those two columns. And why 23 to 24 does carry over, because we're making that educated guess or estimate and forecast that the ending fund balance, if all of these things happen in 2023, will be 12.3, and that's our new starting point for 2024. So that's why the 2022 actual 15.4 is different from the 23 budget, because of the timing of when we actually know those numbers and leaving it consistent, which I think you could argue doesn't make sense if you're reconciling the line item right there. But if you're looking at the 2023 budget, it would tie back, so.
Let's look at page 14, please. And I do it in conjunction with page 50. When we look at those net change in fund balances going forward for your forecast, again, forecast, respect. The net change in fund balance increases in deficits. We have more outspending expenditures more than our revenues, thereby depleting our reserves and dropping below the 25% minimum in years 27 and 28. Now, with respect, I totally understand these are projections. So we're dipping into our general fund reserves below the 25% level. And we're losing money operationally for the next 5 years. Correct?
Yes.
But as far as this dais is concerned, that's perfectly okay. That's what I'm seeing. So I'm going to just share with you speaking for myself in this seat, I'm very, very concerned. Very concerned. Added to that, with respect, Councilman Condo just asked about overtime for the police department. Again, we do not have enough police officers showing up in this budget, even though I know the explanations given in it, they're hard to find and everything's in the queue. We're still not paying attention to the future. And if we have this kind of an operational budget going forward, losing money, how in the heck are we going to find ways to find dollars for our police officers going forward? It's a rhetorical question. You don't have to answer it, Jason. It's not fair to you. I'm just putting it out there. Because when we start in 2026, we're losing nearly $1 million, then $1.2 million, then $1.5 million. And somewhere along the line, we're going to have to find a way to make some sense out of reducing these egregious over expenditures that need to be seriously questioned. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Condo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Long, I share your concern. I never like to see red numbers and brackets in general, but I guess what's causing me to have a slightly higher risk tolerance here is the knowledge that we do have the half-cent tax sales extension on the ballot, so that might give some comfort, assuming that it passes. There are some additional businesses that may be coming online, like Prost, that hopefully will contribute to the sales tax revenue, so.
What's that? What source?
Prost.
Oh, Probst.
That's not built into this model. So, there are some factors here that cause me to kind of be a little bit more tolerant about this. But yeah, I too am concerned about any kind of projection that takes us below the 25% fund balance. It just, call it the pucker factor. It makes me nervous. But I think right now, the focus of effort, right, is on the 2024 budget and kind of getting that nailed down. But hopefully, Jason, you've kind of gotten at least some sense of the tenor of concern about how fund budget, or the fund balance in the out years, at least 2 or 3, 4 or 5 years down, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, we need to watch that very carefully. I need to watch that carefully, too. We all are responsible here, right? So at least that's how I feel about it.
Right.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, Councilmember Condo, I'm going to kind of add on to that because that was exactly what I was thinking. So, tonight, the public hearing is about the 2024 operating and capital improvement budget. If our Director of Finance or our interim Deputy City Manager was not showing us a projection, that would be irresponsible. So he knows my time on council, he has always provided sound judgment, and he is very tuned in to how much we have and what the trajectory looks like. I appreciate slide 15 for that very reason. And I know that we are going to have conversations as we move along that will consider a lot of factors that are not in play for this year, right? So things that will come up in 2025 and 2026, those are, things that we will discuss at that time that will impact our budget. But I think I don't want Councilmember Long's comment that the rest of us are not paying attention to sit as fact, because we are. We are all very passionate about our city finances, and we are all paying attention. So I appreciate slide 15, because if it wasn't there, we would have a lot of questions. Where are we headed? What's it going to look like? But right now, we're focused on 2024. Councilmember Brown?
You know what? So all those houses that are going up on Carl's Farm that are not sold, like the condos and everything, that's money that's gonna come into our coffers later on too, right? Because they're not occupied right now, so they're not sold.
Yes. So, the concept would be single-family homes or any homes, any units, residential
Right.
units, would generate some sales tax
Well, I
into
mean
the
like
city.
property tax and stuff.
So on the property tax side, it would be with our mill levy being what it is and based off of tax rates.
Right.
It takes a significant amount of housing to really make it,
We
make
gotta
an
see
impact there. But there definitely are a lot of factors not included in this, being super conservative, again, on the revenue side, and not on the expenditure side. Saying, hey, we have a 5-year staffing plan, let's put that in there and see what
Right.
happens if we don't have some offsetting revenues. So really, this is an illustration to say, hey, on an annual basis, moving forward over the next several years, there may or may not be the need to have kind of difficult conversations about, additional staffing or, other areas of growth. So it is just a reminder of that. And that's all it's intended to be. As I said, the 2024 budget is balanced on an operational standpoint structurally with those one-time revenues, or one-time expenditures for some of those different studies, so.
So the city should see in 2024 an increase in the trajectory of revenues. In some cases, property taxes would probably get more of that with Carl's Farm, sales taxes with Prost, and none of that is taken in consideration, right? We're not like dreaming.
Correct. Those aren't
All right.
included. Additionally, is it Alexan? That development on the corner there, that's not included. That will have some one-time revenue from building permits and fees and things that we saw like in 2022 with Carl's Farm. So there's some items in there that aren't being counted. Again, being conservative to say, hey, we'll record it when we see it.
Okay, and Jason, I really do appreciate all the hard work you put into the budget every
thanks.
year that I've been on council. As an accountant, you know I love my numbers, and I've enjoyed working with you on them. Great job.
Thank you.
Councilmember Goff?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I was also going to say thank you, Jason. I have paid attention over the past 4 years and realized that, because the first time we did this budget thing, had some of the same questions about, the 5-year out kind of concerns. But my experience has been that every year so far, your projections are always, I don't know if we would say overly conservative, but we've always had more revenue than projected. I have some concerns, but I think for next year, I think we're in good shape.
Mayor Pro Tem Lookman Hirama.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, thank you, Jason. I really do appreciate taking that conservative approach, just because I'd rather see the scary numbers, potentially, right? Without all of the good things that probably are gonna happen. Besides Prost, there's still some empty space in that marketplace. And once Prost goes in, that's gonna be an attractive draw. So there's that too, that's not being included in here, as well as the final build-out of the civic campus potentially, and what can go in there too. So, as my fellow council members have said, sure, of course, it's concerning, and we do need to keep our eye on the money in the upcoming years. Council does as a whole. So, but overall, thank you for giving us this information that we can make sound judgments on. That's all I have to add, Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Long?
I don't for 1 minute impugn your integrity or the work you do. Not one thing, because I know you work hard and you're presenting objective information. But we are drawing down from reserves to cover the overage of expenses for this year. Correct? That is a correct statement.
Yes.
And I would also add to my other August Dias members that when Carl's Farm comes on board, there's going to be an impact on water. There'll be an impact on wastewater. There'll be an impact on stormwater. There'll be an impact on sanitation, all of which will be having to be taken care of and addressed. In the face of needs we have in the tours I've taken and seen firsthand, wastewater and water needs some capital improvements in the next several years. In the face of operational deficits, operational strains coming from 120th. And I might add parenthetically that maybe Probst will be there to balance off the loss of the marijuana tax as a possibility. Thank you.
Councilmember Kondo?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think Councilmember Long brings up a good question, because if I recall, at some point, if you produce more than a certain number of gallons of wastewater, you enter a new tier of, instead of being a small city, a mid-sized city, and you have now higher EPA requirements, more stringent EPA requirements. So I'm not trying to solve that problem tonight, but I do want to make sure that we as a body are aware that at some point, if we continue to add more people, our wastewater volume will force us to now start to comply with higher, more stringent requirements, which means investment in the wastewater infrastructure. So that's something that we all need to be acutely aware of, if we weren't already.
Absolutely. And I would love staff to respond to that, because I don't want to send out kind of a flare if there isn't one. Can you clarify that?
So, ish. It's not the public works staff, but I'll put that hat on for a second. So we are definitely aware of, the requirements and the potential impacts to those. Do not believe that what we have moving forward as far as development triggers any of those items, but staff is aware of that. On our 5-year long-term CIP, we do have plans to invest in the wastewater infrastructure again. And so we're monitoring and planning and trying to identify the most cost-effective way to do that as we model, some of those rate increases that we're talking about over the next several years are, in preparation for, 2028 and as we move forward. So staff is definitely aware of those things. The build out and the growth right now that we have planned are not going to trigger those requirements as were mentioned.
And to clarify, just it's kind of an add-on question. Does anyone have the actual number? Because I've had people sort of misstate the actual number of residents in Carl's Farm. Even if it's an estimate. Someone asked me if there were 20,000 people going in there, and I know that's not true.
2,500 maybe.
2,500, okay.
Yeah, Brooke, can you provide a more accurate, I recently did a calculation, but based on the number of housing units.
Brooke counts them, door to door.
So between the multifamily, single-family, and senior housing, we have about 680 residential units. So you can assume that with some of those units, there may be one person, there could be 5 people. Typically, in planning purposes, you estimate about 2.5 to 3 people per household. So with the multifamily, because of the dynamics that we see today, it's likely to be higher. So a round number of 2,000 to 2,500 is probably not unrealistic, but it's also very high when you think about the number of residential units that we have out there and that are under construction and or are occupied. So.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Any other questions for Jason before we open the public hearing? Okay, now's the time. I will now open the public hearing on the proposed 2024 annual operating and capital improvement budget. Is there anyone who would like to speak either for or against the proposed 2024 budget? Is there anyone on the phone who would like to speak about the budget? You can unmute yourself by pressing *6 at this time. Hearing none, I will close the public hearing. Okay, Next one, CB 2010. Joanna, will you read the title, please?
A bill for an ordinance amending Chapter 11 of the North Glen Municipal Code by the addition thereto of a new Section 11-2-17.5 and amending Section 11-3-3, Section 11-3-4, and Section 11-4-6.
Motion to approve.
Nope. We're in public
We're in a
hearings.
hearing.
I know. We got three more. I will now open the public hearing on CB 2010. Is there anyone who would like to speak either for or against CB 2010? Is there anyone on the phone who would like to speak about CB 2010? You can unmute yourself by pressing *6 at this time. Hearing none, I will close the public hearing. Next one, CB 2011. Joanna, will you read the title, please?
A bill for an ordinance amending Chapter 7, Article 10 concerning vehicular public nuisances.
I will now open the public hearing on CB 2011. Is there anyone who would like to speak either for or against CB 2011? Is there anyone on the phone who would like to speak about CB 2011? You can unmute yourself by pressing *6 at this time. Hearing none, I will close the public hearing. CB 2012, Joanna, will you read the title, please?
A bill for a special ordinance vacating public easements for the construction of the Alexan North Glen multifamily development project.
I will now open the public hearing on CB 2012. Is there anyone who would like to speak either for or against CB 2012? Is there anyone on the phone who would like to speak about CB 2012? You can unmute yourself by pressing *6 at this time. Hearing none, I will close the public hearing. CB 2013, Joanna, will you read the title, please?
A bill for a special ordinance amending the 2023 budget, recognizing revenues and appropriating expenditures by supplemental appropriation for the payment of the costs and expenses of the municipal government, agencies, and offices of the City of North Glen, Colorado for the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2023.
I will now open the public hearing on CB 2013. Is there anyone who would like to speak either for or against CB 2013? Is there anyone on the phone who would like to speak about CB 2013? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing. Moving into ordinances tonight, we have 4. The first one is CB 2010, the Unified Development Ordinance Amendments. Is there a motion to approve CB 2010 on second reading?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, our Director of Planning and Development is here with a summary of this item. Hi, Brooke.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Give me a moment here to get situated. All right. Tonight, we're taking up Council Bill 2010. A few things I want to go over, and I'm going to spend a few minutes on a couple of these slides. At the first reading, there was a couple of comments that were made that I want to try to help further explain and go in a little bit of depth. So those in recent months, I have been brevity. So now I'm going to spend a little bit of time and have some conversation with you folks. Also, in light of some of the conversation about the budget and concerns about future growth and revenue, I will try to tie some of that into this because I believe it's relevant, but it doesn't answer the questions, but it helps tee up context to the overall conversation in terms of how the city and planning kind of help facilitate and also look at this concern that has been brought up. With that, so for tonight, what we're bringing forward tonight was presented to council in May and July earlier this year for policy recommendations. The council direction at those meetings was to bring back the overlay district and ADUs. The senior housing that's also part of tonight's conversation is something that staff identified as an outcome of those two recommendations to bring forward. I'll cover that in a moment in a little bit more detail. So here on the background, we just want to mention, this is our 5th round of amendments to the UDO. And as we know, this is a living document. And as we see things that need to be corrected or changed, we come back to you with those. Tonight, and typically what those amendments have been up to this point are minor and technical type of amendments, missed things that we said, oh my gosh, we didn't know that that was something that should have been tied in or cross-referenced within the code to other references, and so we work on that. And then we have administrative amendments, which are more like, let's make things consistent, so there's not any incongruities. And then we also have, lastly, policy amendments. So tonight, we're bringing 2 policy-related amendments and 1 technical amendment tied to that, and that's the senior. So the senior is really just changing the date or the age for seniors, just to broaden the spectrum of what would be eligible. So it's important to note that what we're bringing forward as far as these policy amendments are not site-specific. They are intended to be something that can be applied throughout the city and is not necessarily targeting an individual area per se. We also look at the UDO as the toolbox for the comp plan. So this is how we execute the vision of the comp plan for City Council. So as you may recall, and I'll go in a little bit more detail here in a minute, the comp plan is sort of our playbook to carry out council's vision. And that's also feathered into and layered into the council strategic plans. But really, when we come forward with land use and development opportunities for the City Council to consider, we're looking at the comp plan as our guiding document to know that this is the vision that council wants to see. And I will spend a little bit more time about how the community effort that went into the comp plan is also really more of that as well. It's also important to understand that the UDO is not driving the vision, it's how we realize the vision of the comp plan. So these policy amendments are more of a reflection of how we get there, not necessarily this is how you must or shall or will. So with that, next slide. Okay, so City Council approved the comprehensive plan back in April of '23. The plan outlines guidelines for consideration as well as future areas of focus. And under our current budget, we have 2 sub-area plans, and that's our future areas of focus, the Marketplace and Section 36. And I want to be very clear on Marketplace. It's not the Marketplace. It's the entire area surrounding the Marketplace. So when we talk about this particular project, we're talking Kennedy, I-25, Huron, and then not just 104th, but then the area just south of 104th, which is O'Meara, where Ramus Law is. We're looking at that entire area. And one of the things that we're going to be looking at that were concerns brought up under the budget discussion is the infrastructure and water augmentation and the tier 2 versus tier 3 when we look at all that. What we want to be able to do with these sub-area plans is to figure out what is the capacity for the infrastructure, transportation, water, sewer, stormwater. Look at all those things in composite and then say, what does this area look like in terms of potential transformation? This overlay district policy is one of the aspects of the tools that can help us do that. And I'll explain a little bit more how that plays into this. So that sub-area plan as well as Section 36 are really geared toward what is possible within the constraints that we need to also identify, not just at the large scale, which is how much water and sewer do we have, but what's the capacity of the trunk infrastructure that's there today? What's the capacity of the roadway networks? So when we think about that, just keep that in the back of mind when we go a little bit further into this conversation about what these policy recommendations are, because these are the tools that we can help utilize after that exercise is completed. So with that, the other thing about what we're proposing is that these are also consistent with the goals and objectives of the comprehensive plan. So what we're doing here is really trying to dovetail into the housing study that was done, that was folded into the comp plan, and that we will basically use the sub-area plans to inform how these potential tools can be deployed. Okay, so we talk here about the IHOP grant. That's the housing study that we did, that we then incorporated into the policy and goal recommendations of the comp plan. The 2 big things that came out of that study in the May and July presentations was the overlay district and the ADUs, and that's what we're here to talk about tonight. I haven't touched much on the ADUs. It's a smaller tool in the toolbox. The overlay district here is definitely a more substantial consideration. So one of the things I also want to bring up here is that, okay, I got that covered, all right. Sorry, I'm going from the notes and the slides, making sure I'm covering all my bases here. So one of the other aspects to this is, and probably what's percolating in your head is you say, Brooke, we got a sub-area plans going on. You're bringing this forward. This seems like maybe it's a chicken and egg thing. Well, under the IHOP grant, one of the things that we committed to under that grant was to bring forward policy recommendations at the conclusion of the study. And so technically, we were supposed to do that earlier in September. What we're now doing is we're bringing it forward now, and just to sort of stay in conformance with that grant and what its intention was. Now, that does not obligate council to adopt anything as a result of that grant, but more importantly, we're following through with bringing this forward in a timely manner to be consistent with the obligations of the grant. So just a little bit of context there about the IHOP grant and why we're taking this up now, because you could be saying, well, shouldn't we wait until we get these studies done and then figure out whether we should apply these tools? So this is more or less a logistics thing with consistency with the intention of this grant that we received and bringing it forward as well. Okay. So going to cover in here a little bit about the overlay districts. And so where I want to start with is that what we're proposing is we have 3 overlay districts. We have neighborhood mixed use, we have corridor mixed use, and then we have regional mixed use. They all have different allowed uses and different height and setback requirements. Neighborhood mixed use sounds just like what it is. It has a maximum height of 35 feet. It has setback requirements. You have to meet within the yard and bulk requirements of a given lot. You have to meet those setbacks. You have to meet that height requirement. So a concern would be that if someone were to go and look and going into a neighborhood and want to buy a block of land and then rezone it, well, you could look at mixed-use neighborhood as a potential option. Developer can do that today. They don't need to have an overlay district to consider that. But then the backstop to that is it consistent with the comprehensive plan? So and I'm gonna go a little bit more detail on that later. Mixed-use corridor allows up to 60-foot maximum height, and typically that's along an arterial collector. So that provides for commercial uses, so does the neighborhood, commercial and residential uses. So it's not just rezoning to multifamily. We have a multifamily zoning district. This is really about creating 3 districts as a potential overlays for specific areas moving forward. And then there's mixed-use regional. Mixed-use regional doesn't have a maximum height, but it has setbacks and other things. That's typically identified near major arterials like 104th and 120th. And once again, there's a whole process that goes into considering that as well. So those are the 3 districts that are part of this overlay district policy amendment. What is an overlay district? Why are we doing this? Okay, part of this is that an overlay district doesn't take away the underlying zoning of the current property. It adds to it. So if you have a commercially zoned property and you want to take up consideration, let's just say it's general commercial, and you want to take up consideration to add mixed use, you can do that without, in an overlay district scenario, you can do that without taking away that underlying zoning. So you're adding additional uses to the potential of that property. You're actually, it would be considered an enhancement. And I've talked with Allison Modine, our economic development director. She sees this as a win-win because what it's doing is it's creating value add, not value take away. And I'm going to talk about a little bit about why that's relevant and how that gets deployed in just a moment. So with an overlay district, it provides greater flexibility for redevelopment. It adds value to the existing properties, and it potentially reduces a step in the entitlement process. Because effectively, what most overlay districts initiated will be is from staff as a result of these sub-area planning exercises. And what we would do is through this process, we would identify parcels of land that would be ripe for this opportunity, work with those property owners, and then bring forward a recommendation to the Planning Commission and Council. So what that does is says, hey, this area here has this new overlay district. Now, a developer doesn't have to necessarily come in and do that rezone step because that overlay district is in place today. So it potentially saves that step in the entitlement process. It also creates a different level of certainty for the development community because it's telling the development community where and when and how the city wants to see new growth. And you say to yourself, well, that all sounds great. How does that really work? Carl's Farm is a great example. We did a sub-area plan, master plan for Carl's Farm. We communicated to the development community what the city was willing to see. We knew from a city standpoint what the capacity was for that area with our water and sewer. One of the things as the director that concerns me is we have a rezone right now that we're doing for senior housing over in the marketplace area. It's a good fit, makes a lot of sense. But here's the question. Is it the best, highest and best use for the city long-term in terms of sales tax revenue, in terms of economic viability, in terms of life cycle costs? And also, if we do these one-offs, and this was the biggest concern for Carl's Farm, the family wanted to sell all the parcels off individually to the highest bidder and whomever it was. They didn't have a cohesive plan. What we were able to do is hone that in and create something that, one, the development community had a higher degree of certainty of what the city council was willing to consider, and we avoided a piecemeal approach to, well, I developed the first 30 acres of the 65, all the rest of the land is crap, no one's gonna wanna touch that, it's gonna sit there for years before someone comes in. So that's part of the same strategy we're applying with this overlay district tool to the sub-area plans that we're talking about. So this is really sort of the end game of how do we set up for something like Carl's Farm to come in where we're creating certainty for the development community, but also we're not taking away private property rights of the existing landowners, and we're just creating more flexibility. That's really what we're trying to accomplish here with this. And I think one other thing I want to point out that we're also doing this, hopefully at the very beginning of next year, the third study that we're doing this year is a residential housing economic analysis. And I mentioned this before with single residential, because of point of sale with Amazon and online ordering, that residential may not be a loss leader as it has typically been considered because it's also generating sales tax. We're going to take a deeper dive, we're going to do that study, and then we're going to fold that into the analysis that we look at with these sub-area plans. So that when we say, hey, if we're going to put a mixed-use district over here, we want that first floor to be commercial, but if you have residential, now the city is potentially looking at a win-win and a more fiscal, sustainably a revenue-based approach to looking at how change and transformation can affect the city. It's not necessarily like, well, if we have higher calls for service for police, are we matching that with the potential revenue that that property is going to generate so that we're at net neutral or net positive? So for me, when I think about land use development and change in the city, I'm looking at not just from a sustainability standpoint, but from a fiscal sustainability. And this is where we get nerdy as planners and do that exercise at this point in the process. And so, once again, this overlay district represents an opportunity when we get through that process to say, here's where we think these are opportunities to create the greatest flexibility to create that fiscal balance for the city. All right. So a couple more comments here. So the other part of this is there's a process involved with any overlay district, and that is that if it's staff initiated as a result of these plans, it goes before the Planning Commission and City Council. And both bodies have the opportunity to say no. So that's part of this process. The other part of this is that there's going to be public involved with the sub-area planning. And one of the things about the budgets for these projects, especially the marketplace, is that we intend to have a very robust, not only community engagement, but stakeholder engagement with the property owners themselves. And so part of all of this is, I know I'm talking a lot about sub-area, but really that's where this funnels to, are these types of tools in the toolbox that we're looking at with this. So the other part here is that if we don't have these overlay districts, potential overlay districts as a tool, we run into what we're seeing now. And what I think from looking at the development trends and what we have been passed by, because we have not seen the same pressures for slot townhomes, I think we are going to see a lot of pressure for multifamily. We've seen it for the last 8 years. I think it's going to continue to happen. The question is do we want to control the destiny, or do we want to be confronted constantly with one-off proposals that are being driven by the development community as opposed to us guiding where we want to see it? So it's a question of, do you want to manage it, or do you want to have it happen and then be reactive? I'm a planner. Proactive is kind of where I try to present to the city council as a way of moving forward, to be in front of the curve as opposed to reacting to it. Okay. Last comment here on this that I want to cover is overlay district sets additional allowable uses, permitted uses, et cetera. That doesn't mean it's like all of a sudden they just get to go do whatever they want because there's an overlay district. There's still site planning, likely major site plan, which means public hearing before planning commission, potential with city council. There's also the potential for subdivision. There's also, when we look at all of this, in addition to what I just covered in terms of sub-area planning, each one of these individual developments is going to have infrastructure impact analysis associated with it. So it's not like just because an overlay district exists means that anything that we put on that overlay district gets to happen carte blanche. There's still an iterative process of analysis and vetting that goes through further entitlement steps. As I mentioned, we're taking a step, which is typically rezone, potentially out of the equation, but there's still the other entitlements that are in place for that. All right, accessory dwelling units. One of the things that we're here to do is to talk about that with accessory dwelling units is to allow short-term rental in them. Right now, we have approximately in the high 30s, low 40s of short-term rentals. We have less than a dozen accessory dwelling units where we've seen accessory dwelling units as conversions of basements and not necessarily independents. And what I want to put into context is we have over 9,600 single-family residential homes in North Glen. So when we think about short-term rentals and we think about what this policy amendment is bringing forward, there's not a lot of it out there today. One of the things we've had this, the short-term rental, or excuse me, the accessory dwelling unit in place since 19. It just has not really caught fire. That doesn't mean that there's other people out there not already doing this, that they may have already be doing something similar to this. But in terms of what we've seen permitted so far, we don't have a lot. And in terms of short-term rental, and I honestly apologize, I had the number written down for that. It's not a big number that we're seeing. It really has not had also as big a, that's not to say that there aren't other people out there doing it without proper licensing. Okay, and then the last here that we have is senior housing parking incentive. What we're doing here is we're going from 65 to 55 because, as you know, the market is really 55 and up. And when we wrote this back in 2019, things have changed, the market has changed, and so we're just trying to be consistent with the market. And then lastly, the Planning Commission recommended on vote of 4-1. Staff is recommending approval on second reading. And questions?
Thank you. Councilmember Kondo?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just for my internal, how should I say this? It kind of couches for me mentally. And I think about places like, for example, in Denver between Pecos and Federal and 38, that area.
Yep.
You have a lot of old houses, some were torn down, and then you have new units built up. Is that what we're trying to avoid, having the kind of hodgepodge of that? Is this kind of, is that what you just described, the way that Northland can kind of take control of our destiny?
Let me answer it a slightly different way. What we are doing is completely different than what Denver did with their smart code.
Okay.
Denver went out and street by street identified areas of change and said, if you can meet this setback on this particular property, here's what you can do. And it doesn't matter, it's just, if you can park it and you can build it and you meet the setbacks, that's all you need to do. That is not what this is. This is really a different approach where we are taking a more conservative and incremental step toward creating more flexibility, but we are not opening the floodgates. I actually lived over there, and I've sold my property that I lived there for 2.5 years because I was surrounded by slot townhomes in less than 2.5 years. Because the zoning allowed for a maximum height of 35 feet and 100% lot coverage, and as long as you could park it, you could build it. That is not what this is. We're using our existing zoning districts that have setback requirements, that have height requirements, and that have parking requirements. So they still have to conform to all that. This is not that.
Okay, understand. And I'm glad you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, absolutely.
There's a good ramen restaurant there.
I will tell you, as a planning director, I always chuckled because Peter Park from Milwaukee came in and brought this whole concept where he was going to take the 1,200-page outdated zoning code of Denver and make it into a 200-page document. It's over 1,200 pages now, and it's literally more complicated than it's ever been before, so.
Understand. Thank you.
Councilmember Goff?
Thank you. So I have two questions. The first one isn't your short-term rental for the ADUs. Is there any kind of a requirement that the owner of the property live in the main house?
No, they just have to remain on property, so they can live in the ADU.
But they have to be on property? Okay,
Yes.
That's my point, just because we hear of
Yes.
short-term rentals that become party houses. But if the owner is living on the property somewhere, probably. that-
Correct. And we also were trying to fight against the kind of property management companies coming in and taking off the long-term unit. So that property owner requirement is really there to help do the party house point and the kind of property management. Now, they don't, in order to do the rental, they don't necessarily, like, it has to be their permanent resident. They could be on vacation at the same time that they're renting out the ADU, but it does have to be permanent
Gotcha.
residents.
That's
Yep.
what that's great. That eases my mind.
That's why she's here.
Good. And then the second one is, when you say the senior housing parking incentive, when you drop the age to 55 years, does that mean less parking?
No, we have, under the current code, there's already an eligible option for reducing the parking requirement for senior, because the idea is that a lot of senior housing is usually one resident, and so you don't have as many trip generations with senior housing. So the idea is that there's already incentive that if you bring in, and what we had it at 65 and over, you were eligible for a discount on required parking. Now we're just lowering the age to 55.
But it does sound like there would be less parking.
Well,
I mean, I don't know, I guess less compared to what?
so here's the thing, is that under our multifamily parking, there's a ratio for 1 and 2, 3 bedrooms, and it's X, Y, and Z. If you have senior, it's X, Y, and Z minus point something.
Gotcha.
So it's an incremental reduction of the ratio of requirement is how that works.
And this is one of those things that we hear complaints about all the time, that there's not enough parking. But on the other hand, there really is a lot of encouragement for people to not have so many cars and just.
Right.
That's why I wanted clarification.
And I will say, from a land use policy standpoint, senior housing generates less traffic, trip generation, and therefore there is a rational nexus to support reduced parking requirements. And I can tell you that, with multifamily, like with Alexan, I believe they either parked it or overparked it because they recognized the impacts of the current market.
Yeah, I know my mother and stepdad live in senior housing, not in the state, and they just finally sold their car because they used the little shuttle buses and things like that. And I'm sure there will be people doing the same thing. So thank you for the clarification.
Yep.
Councilmember Brown?
When you brought this before, Brooke, I know that I was confused as to what an overlay district would allow and what it wouldn't allow. Your information was very clear, so I'm just gonna make this point really simple. So, when we do an overlay district, there can be a business and then a house at the same point, you know what I'm saying? So that I bought the property, I'm living in my house, just forget where it is, okay? And then there's an open space next to me that, say, a developer wants to buy. And he puts in my favorite Dairy Queen. Is that allowed? Under the overlay?
So A better way to perhaps characterize this is the Wells Fargo building property there off of Kennedy and Melody. It's a 6-acre parcel. There's a big parking field associated with it. Right now, it's office. It's zoned general commercial, or it's a commercial zone district. I don't know the exact zoning. If you allow a mixed-use overlay district on that particular parcel, they could convert part of the building into housing. They could provide other types of uses, whether they be residential or commercial, but they would have to go through a process to get that approval. So what we would be doing is we'd be adding the potential for that. Now, the other thing we would be doing is maybe the Wells Fargo building is too expensive to do any of that, and maybe it needs to be scraped and something else goes in place of it. The idea, though, is that on the long ball vision of this, you still have that underlying zoning, which means that if in the next life cycle of whatever gets built there over 20, 30 years, that underlying zoning is still there, which means someone can come back in and do something different again, and you're not stuck with just multifamily. And with the senior housing that we just approved, which is not a bad approval, staff completely supported it, is that without that underlying zoning, if and when that runs its life cycle in, say, 30 years, they're gonna have to come back to the city and rezone it if they don't want it to be multifamily. This gives us more flexibility when we think of the long game in that sense.
Okay, so what I took from that is like the King Soopers down in Denver, where King Soopers is on the bottom.
That's right.
And all the condos are on top, right? That's what, okay.
This potentially creates the possibility for something like that to happen, more so because the current zoning right now, say, where Saigon Basil is, it's just retail. Well, if we put an overlay district there, then it could be not just retail, it could also be housing, but it could also be office. It could also be other types of uses that may not necessarily be a use by right, that would otherwise take an extra step of approval.
Councilmember Long?
Hello, Brooke.
Hey.
What's the definition of short-term?
Is it less than 30? Less than 30.
Less than 30
Days. Yep.
Less than 30 days?
Yep.
So you're talking bed and breakfasts?
Short-term rentals, Airbnb,
Airbnbs,
VRBO.
Airbnbs.
Yeah, yeah.
And we only have 30 in the,
39? Yeah, 39 as of,
Okay.
in September, yeah. Sorry.
all right.
I wanted to say 39 earlier, but then I couldn't remember if it was the right.
So, we've had conversations on this dais about homeless small home villages. Does this have an effect on that at all?
No, what we're looking at is the overlay districts would look at mixed-use neighborhood, mixed-use corridor, and mixed-use regional as the overlay on top of the existing zoning. So tiny homes is not part of that equation.
So if you had a village of tiny homes that was, somebody recommended that we take care of the homeless that are coming to us,
That's gonna probably be, that's not gonna
this will
necessarily,
stand in the way of that,
that would be a different exercise altogether, outside of this.
outside of this.
Yeah, yeah. Right now, we don't have tiny home,
No, I know that.
yeah. It would likely fall under a planned development type of process. So before, one of the things that we've tried to do with this UDO is there was a majority of development within this community that was all planned development, PUD, planned unit development. And so that was the tool that we used for everything, including Webster Lake Promenade. What we have tried to do is unwind that, because what you end up getting is all these one-off areas that have specific use standards and approval standards that you have to go back and look at the page of the document to know what's allowed and what's not allowed. We tried to get rid of that. So when we think about a tiny home development, we currently don't have anything in our code for that. It would likely at this point fall under planned development unless we look at doing tiny home policy.
My last question really stems from a question I did pose at the planning commission, and that's concerned with a lot of seniors who have single-family homes, you know, and maybe a developer comes in, makes an offer they can't refuse. Say buys up a whole block, like 4 to 6 homes or more, and then wants to build some kind of multifamily apartment houses on this property. Would that be allowed?
They would have to go through a rezoning process. That's not necessarily specific to this, what we're bringing up tonight. So the overlay district policy idea is typically going to be initiated by staff based on us doing sub-area planning exercises. So in the comp plan, we have what we call areas of focus, where we've looked, where through this public process where we had the committees and everything identify where change could be appropriate for us to further study. So when you talk about someone going into a neighborhood and buying a block, a residential block, we don't have that identified in the comp plan. So someone comes in, they say they buy 10 lots, and they want to rezone it to multifamily. They got to go through a rezone process before the Plan Commission and City Council, and you guys have to say yes to it. And then after they go through that process, if it's approved, then they have to go through a major site plan development, which is going to require Planning Commission approval, and it's likely going to require a subdivision, which means it's going to come back to City Council. So that scenario is not necessarily tied into what this is contemplating.
But it's not impossible. The way you just went through it, if they've got the time and energy and money and planning people, they could pull it off.
But also keep in mind that when we look at a reason, yes, the answer is yes, but when you look at that, where your line of defense as a council member that is concerned about something like that coming to a neighborhood is you can refer to the comp plan and say, the comp plan does not identify that as an area of change or an area of focus. And that is a basis for denial for a request like that. So one of the things I want to emphasize here is that even with an overlay district or a rezone like what's being described here, is that there are checks and balances for approval criteria. Just because someone decides to buy 10 lots and they want to go do something with it, doesn't mean they get to do it. They have to go through a public entitlement process in the scenario that you're describing. So it's not a carte blanche. Is there anything you want to add to that, Corey, or no? Okay.
Well, the only thing I would add is compatibility with the surrounding properties is always one of the criteria. And in the example you just gave, it is likely you'd have a strong argument it was incompatible.
And I would also mention that if someone brought that forward and it's not compatible with the comp plan, staff would not necessarily recommend it for approval either. So, and, you know, by and large, we as an organization and community have tried to promulgate projects that we can support. And quite frankly, if someone were to come up with something like that, we'd probably say that we would not support on staff level. A developer then is likely not willing to take the risk of going through all the expense of going through an entitlement process if they don't even have staff support. That's a very typical thing. But it's not to say someone can't do it.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I had some of those same questions, and I think of SB 213 and what would have happened in terms of what Councilmember Long was referring to. That would have been a little bit more difficult to be proactive. So my concern was those checks and balances, but I'm hearing Planning Commission, Council, and then robust public engagement, right? Information that's important to our residents, that they are involved in any of those decisions. So I was happy to hear that. I have a question kind of related to what Councilmember Brown asked about having like a home and a business right next to it. What about like a Bradburn style where the business is like on the bottom and then the homes are on top? That is an option with these overlay districts.
The mixed-use zoning districts that we currently have on the books are actually trying to promulgate that. That's kind of the concept between mixed-use zoning is storefront with residential or commercial on top. The nuance to this is, and this is getting planning nerdy a little bit, but it's what the market can support and how our population is such that right now, neighborhood serving commercial coffee shops where you have, like in Bradburn, where you've got, 2 stories of residential above and then you've got the corner coffee shop. We don't have enough population density to really support a private new construction to do that right now. However, when we see something like Alexan where we did not message to the development community, hey, that's a mid-rise, that tells me as a planning director that the market is starting to come our way and that we're going to start seeing more pressures. And likely what we're going to see is mixed-use regional and mixed-use corridor applications than we are going to be on that mixed-use residential. That's not to say we can't end up with something like a Bradburn. Our version of that really is Carl's Farm. And yet again, when we did that back in 2017, 2018, it didn't support the vertical aspect. It supported the horizontal aspect of that, where you had the commercial up front, you had the multifamily, and then you had the single family behind.
Right, that makes a lot of sense. And then I had one more question. If you could just talk a little bit about the affordable housing eligibility standards and that matching fee reduction from the city versus the percentage of dwelling units,
I'll let Sarah cover that.
please.
Yeah, so from kind of researching incentives, one of the big ones that is used often is a fee reduction. So what we wanted to do is to kind of further emphasize or kind of incentivize the addition of more units by having that kind of structured scale of saying 25% are affordable, you get a 25% reduction, and it's kind of a 1-to-1 up until that 50 to 100%, just because we do realize that we need some level of those kind of fee funds in terms of operation, but it does provide an opportunity for developers to kind of have that reduction in those city fees, because sometimes those can be, depending on the scale of the project, can be a barrier. So it's an opportunity for us to bring in some of that housing while also being able to kind of help, not necessarily subsidize, but kind of help those kind of that bottom line of that developer. So it helps our community and the developer without us being at a complete loss in terms of the fees. That's why we only went up to that 50% reduction.
Thank you. I know we had asked for some kind of incentives.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Do not see any more hands.
Great.
I think we're ready.
Thank you very much, folks. Appreciate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please open the vote.
The vote is open. Councilmember Burns, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. I will close that vote, and CB 2010 passes with 1 no vote cast by Councilmember Long.
Okay, CB 2011. Joanna, will you read the title, please?
A bill for an ordinance amending Chapter 7, Article 10 concerning vehicular public nuisances.
Move for approval.
Second.
Deputy Police Chief Randall Darlin will provide a summary. Hello.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. This is really just some slight changes to the ordinance that was passed last year. These are really procedural changes that managed through the court. It's a proposed changes that will establish less restrictive notice and service requirement upon the owners of the parties with an interest in the vehicle, as well as amendments further clarify the time frame required to vacate or modify temporary restraining orders and define notices and service requirements when the city is unable to obtain an ex parte restraining order. These are all basically procedural issues that will be managed through the court through the notification of the vehicle's owner. It doesn't change the structure of the ordinance in any way. It really is just, or the offenses that create what a public nuisance is for a vehicle. This is really all procedural stuff that will help us move the process through the courts a little bit quicker. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
I do not see any questions. Thank you. Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please
Councilmember
vote.
Burns, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. I will close that vote, and CB 2011 passes unanimously.
CB 2012. Joanna, will you read the title, please?
The bill for a special ordinance vacating public easements for the construction of the Alexan North Glen multifamily development project.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Oh, you're back.
And brevity. All right. So we're considering the vacation of 6 easements and 1 right-of-way. The reason why this is being presented as a council bill is because one of those is a public right-of-way. Otherwise, this would be handled under a council resolution. With that, the developer, Trammell Crow, is requesting to relocate or vacate these so that they can then put in new utility easements for their new development pattern. This was all approved under a major development site plan through the Planning Commission. The project's known as Alexan. was properly notified. Plan Commission approved this in March, and as it says here, as part of the redevelopment, new easements will be put in place in replacing of these. It's handled through a separate process. There are 6 easements included. Just to mention here, you guys approved this on the first reading, and if the laser will work, this little guy right here is why we're here tonight, under a public hearing and not under a council resolution. It's a small parcel that was earmarked for future potential right-of-way. It's not necessary or needed, either then or now. So that's sort of the areas. This is the trunk infrastructure that's there now that's going to basically be torn out, and that's why these easements are no longer necessary. No budget implications. Staff is recommending approval, and that's it.
Councilmember Brown?
Hi, Brooke, welcome back.
Feels
Here's
like
my-
just yesterday I was up here.
I know, no PowerPoints, oh, yeah, just not that long. So, one of my concerns is coming down Community Drive when they're going into that, into what would be the driveways, right? Wherever they may choose to put them. Is that what this is referencing, that they want to move those easements?
No, so that's part of the major site plan approval in which they actually, we spent an extensive amount of time on the traffic distribution, the internal traffic generation, how it's going to be distributed on Community Center Drive as well as off the back, off 115th Place. So there's going to be, I believe, 3 new access points that are going to come off. Only one of them is going to be full movement. The other 2 are going to be right in, right out. What that will do is it'll help minimize the overall traffic demand and congestion at one intersection, which will make it much safer and much easier. Also, when we look at the overall traffic impact, the volume in terms of the single-family housing as it relates to the amount of the student population, there's not a significant delta in that. However, the time of day when that occurs is different, which will help with overall traffic operations. So it's essentially about the same amount of traffic impact, but it happens in a different way now.
My only concern about, all of this is Community Center Drive and, traffic possibly stopping or anything like that on there while they make the turn.
So we went through a fully vetted process for that.
I trust you.
Yeah, under the major site plan development. And I will tell you that the engineering department had extensive back and forth with them on how the travel demand and how it was going to be dispersed. One of the things that we look at when we do that is behaviorally, people are going to go where there's the path of least resistance.
Right.
So when you think about where the primary access is and how we would do mode split, when we think about those things, we're very confident that we're not going to see a substantial impact to it. Now, that's not to say there's not going to be one, but that we've managed it in the best way possible.
Okay, thank you very
And none of
much.
these easements are related to that.
Okay.
No further questions. Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
Councilmember Burns, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. I will close that vote, and CB 2012 passes unanimously.
Thank you.
CB 2013, Joanna, will you read the title, please?
A bill for a special ordinance amending the 2023 budget, recognizing revenues and appropriating expenditures by supplemental appropriation for the payment of the costs and expenses of the municipal government, agencies, and offices of the City of North Glen, Colorado for the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2023.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, Jason Loveland is back to provide a summary.
Good evening. Supplemental appropriation for 2023 was first discussed on September 25th. There's a list of 15 items for consideration here, the majority of which are ARPA or otherwise some other grant-funded expenditure. There's ARPA funding for a crew vehicle and other police vehicle replacements, grants received for lifeguard training, trail signage, the Broncos funding for youth scholarships for the arts and humanities, as well as some support for the Adams County School District Foundation to provide support to the city's recreation programs. Additionally, a couple items that will come forward in a few minutes, RTD path lighting, additional expense being captured here In addition to a large grant for E.B. Raines Jr. Memorial Park received from Adams County Open Space Tax of $1.3 million. And then lastly, some waste handling in the water fund as part of a service loop requirement for a project that was unforeseen at the time of initial design. And then lift station A and force main fencing, just to wrap up that project completely. So overall, there's a change in expenditures of an additional $2.2 million being added to the 2023 budget or being requested, with an offsetting revenue of $1.8 million due to grants. Staff recommends approval on second reading.
Councilmember Condo?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can you just refresh my memory on page 1 where it says Adams County School District 12 funding? What was that again?
So those are for scholarships for youth for the foundation to allocate and dedicate to folks that would be using programs at our recreation center.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This could be superfluous, but I just want to say I've gotten kudos on that scholarship program. Kids are using that, and appreciation for City Council. Yeah. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
No further questions. Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
Councilmember Burns, how do you vote?
Yes. Ellie also votes yes.
I will close that vote, and CB 2013 passes unanimous. Oh, I'm so sorry. It passes with 1 no vote cast by Councilmember Long.
Okay, resolution CR 88. Joanna, will you read the title, please?
A resolution adopting the 2023 City of North Glen Emergency Operations Plan.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, our police chief, Jim May, is here to provide a summary. Hello.
Good evening again, back up here. Actually, we're wanting you to consider the CR 88 resolution adopting the emergency operation plan. Came before you late spring with that plan, went through it. There was some suggestions for edits. We went back through that. Also, this is going to be a public document, so we spent some time looking at it, making sure if there's any public safety risks. We did redact some things, and that's for the safety of our community, and also for our responders going out to those. So we did do that. You'll see that in the plan that was sent forward. This EOP represents a significant evolution from our 2015 plan. The goal is to create a vision of prepared and disaster resilient city with coordinated capabilities to mitigate against, prepare for, respond to, and recover from any hazard. Additionally, county, state, and national guidances were followed when we were putting this together. It's a 200-plus page document, but I think it's beautifully laid out. I think Commander Osgood and I'm drawing a blank. Tracy Bowles did a fantastic job putting this thing together. She's going to shoot me for just drawing a blank on that. Some of the emergency operation plan priorities include the protection of life, of course, property, and the environment to the greatest extent possible. By making the city more efficient and effective in the response and recovery timelines and restoring the impact area to the new normal. So with that, I open up for any questions.
Councilmember Condo?
Statement, again, I really appreciate the collaboration between Commander Osgood and recently retired Ross Riley of North Metro. I think that having the hand in glove between fire department and police is so essential here for having a good plan. Although no good plan really survives first contact with the enemy, but nonetheless, it is a very good plan. So thank you for all the hard work.
Councilmember Long?
I want to support what the councilman just said, totally, working with North Metro Fire as you have. I know you've worked closely with the folks over there. So, thank you for that. I have a rhetorical question, which I don't even know if you have a response, but I keep asking it. We read in the in the newspaper, we hear it on the radio. We've got this immigration problem coming from the south. I can't help but think that somehow, somewhere, over time, it's gonna come up towards us. And I don't know how you'd even answer it, Chief, but I'm just thinking out loud here. What can you share with our residents out there in terms of, I even hate to say it, because we don't know what's gonna happen or if it'll happen, but I see that Denver's getting a little bit worried, recruiting all the police officers they look to do. So what are your thoughts?
Well, I think Colorado and how we planned, right? We had a huge increase of immigrants from Afghanistan and quite a few housed here in Northland. And I think we did a fantastic job of working with the county and the state. So as long as we can keep those communication lines open between all those resources available to us, I think we can work together. Because you're right, we could see, with the busing of the immigrants up to the cities, we could possibly see some of that. So working with the state officials and county officials, and then, some of the resources locally with Tri-County Health and, some of those areas that can assist in some of that transfer. So, but it is challenging, for law enforcement, for all, I think, aspects of it. But I think so far with the last one, I think, I think we've done a good job working together on handling that, so.
Thank you.
But the thing that we really want to do is make sure that if we have those that are, doing violent crime or drug dealing and that kind of stuff, we've been super aggressive on some of our impact stuff that we've done with our North Metro Drug Task Force, and that, so we'll assist where we can on that stuff.
This plan sets a good foundation for how you might deal with it.
Yeah, and the other thing too, I appreciate everybody participating in the active shooter that we had. Next year, I'd like to do, try to get that tabletop done with council. So just a little, friendly reminder, page 30 has some recommended, courses that you guys can look at just to familiarize yourself with the NIM system and how that's put together. And then we'll be all ready for that little plan for next year. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Chief, you actually took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say that this is so thorough and so good, but I noticed that there was training in there for council members. So I was just going to point that out, that I thought that was awesome, that there's training included for us, because that, that you have to practice, you have to do the things in order to do the things well. So, and I see that as integrated in everything in this plan. So very, very nicely done. I'm pretty impressed.
And the other thing too that we have coming out, you'll see Commander Osgood working with the county, again, on a 72-hour preparedness kit. I made him do a video. So that'll be coming into our Facebook.
I've been excited for that for a while. Thank you.
Councilmember Kondo?
Yes.
We still have questions. I know, like, just wandered off. Circle back.
In that vein, if you could send a Tickler email with the links for the NIMS training.
You bet.
To council, that would help us make sure it's on our radar screen. Thank you.
Now we're going to vote. No, he doesn't want to sit down. Please open the vote.
I'm going to stay.
Vote is open.
Please vote.
Councilmember Burns, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. I will close that vote, and CR 88 passes unanimously.
Okay, CR 118. Joanna, will you read the title, please?
A resolution approving an agreement between the City of North Glen and Sturgeon Electric Company Incorporated for the 112th Avenue RTD Path Lighting Project.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, Jason Loveland is here with a summary of this item.
Good evening. Kent sends his regrets. He could not make it tonight, so I'm jumping in here for him. This is a project that has been in the works since 2021, as you can tell per the memo. The city finished the trail, so this is on the west side of, more near the line tracks. And we've been in the works coordinating with RTD, installing the lighting package. to help illuminate and create a safe path for folks. So this contract will execute that portion of the project. Original budget was $200,000. This is meeting most of those needs. There's a supplemental appropriation that we just talked about for the additional $23,000 to capture this entire project. We're expecting this to be a 45-day project once there's a notice to proceed. Starts in March of 2024. So it's important we get all of this finalized and approved tonight so that we can make the next part of that pathway project complete. So staff recommends approval.
Councilmember Brown?
Jason, I know that Councilmember Jaramillo and myself would like to say get it done faster. But I know that I am thrilled to death that this is finally, coming into place, and that'll be really nice.
All right. Please open the vote.
Vote is open.
Please vote.
Councilmember Burns, how do you vote?
Yes.
I will close that vote, and CR 118 passes unanimously.
CR 124, Joanna, will you read the title, please?
A resolution approving a license agreement between the City of North Glen and J3B2 Properties LLC, authorizing the placement of a sign within the 120th Avenue public right-of-way.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. Hello, Brooks.
As part of the 120th widening project, the Pavilion Center had an existing license agreement for a monument sign. The widening of the roadway project required relocating that. This exhibit and license agreement is the new proposed location for the sign. It is still in the public right-of-way, but is on the edge of the public right-of-way. This is a legacy sign approval, and based on the fact that the project had to have it relocated, we're still honoring that license agreement, and so we're asking council to consider the relocation of it under this council resolution. Happy to answer any questions.
Meredith, I'm sorry.
Councilmember Brown.
Sorry. Explain to me which one this is. It's not the rock.
It's not there anymore.
It's not there anymore
We
at all?
took it down already.
The big, huh?
It was the big square monument sign.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you. And thank you for understanding.
You know exactly what you're talking about.
All right. Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
Councilmember Burns, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. I will close that vote, and CR 124 passes unanimously.
CR 125, Joanna, will you read the title, please?
A resolution approving a professional services agreement between the City of North Glen and Hazen and Sawyer DPC for engineering design services for the automated filter backwash project.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right. Jason, tell us about this one.
All right, this one is, as the title kind of indicates, this is for design services for our chemical building at the water plant, to take a look at making upgrades to new filters, higher efficiency, better performing infrastructure, if you will, of the plant in that chemical building. It'll have about a 6-month design and construction document built out overall before implementation of the actual improvements that will be recommended. This was initially approved as a ARPA-funded project for $1.1 million. We've also received $2.3 million of congressionally directed spending dollars last year that will probably most likely add to this and really enhance the improvements that we're able to make. But we're going to go through this initial design phase to identify, really where we are with the improvements that are necessary, and then what can be supported financially as well. So with that, staff recommends approval.
All right, please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
Councilmember Burns, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. I will close that vote, and CR 125 passes unanimously.
CR 126. Joanna, will you read the title, please?
A resolution approving addendum number 1 to the agreement between the City of North Glen and Glacier Construction Company Incorporated for the water treatment plant solids handling improvements project.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, the waste, the water treatment plant solids handling improvements is a very large project, a $6 million project that we have been working on for the past year. This resolution, there's one supplemental appropriation that we just visited for $112,000 to add funding to this project. And additionally, to authorize modifications to the contract. You have the purchase orders in the packet that identify the various items that an engineering or public works person could probably tell you everything about. I cannot at the moment. But this is part of finalizing that project and adding additional funds, one to the contract that was originally approved, and then authorizing the city manager to execute that final change order number 3. So staff recommends approval.
Questions for Jason? No? Okay, please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
Councilmember Burns, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. I will close that vote, and CR 126 passes unanimously.
CR 135. Joanna, will you read the title, please?
A resolution declaring the intent of the City of North Glen, Colorado to issue or otherwise assist and support the issuance of private activity bonds to finance the acquisition, construction, rehabilitation, renovation, and equipping of multifamily residential housing facilities known as Glen Park Village Apartments.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, Brooke, tell us about this one.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. I will try to be brief. Also want to point out that we have a member from Steel Properties here to help answer any questions. Effectively, back in August, we brought forward to you our local PAB, private activity bond assignment, in which we mentioned we'd be coming back to you again. This is for the DOLA portion, and the idea here is that combining these two assignments together will enable them to have a project budget that they will be able to move forward with sooner than later. Included in the packet is information about the project as well as Steel Properties, and also the initial schematic plans for the remodel work. Staff is recommending approval and happy to answer any questions.
Councilmember Kondo?
Curious, while the renovation is in progress, is there a plan to move the current residents out, or how does that work? Or temporarily house the residents, not move them out, but...
Deb Quinlan from Steel Properties.
Great, thank you. And thanks for your
Hello.
patience for
Hi,
hanging in there.
Thank
No
you for
problem.
being here.
Thank you for having me. So there's 26 units there. The majority will be an in-place renovation. We recently got our testing results back that the property has no asbestos, so that's excellent news. There will be 5% of units converted to be handicap accessible, so those residents will be temporarily relocated to a hotel for up to 30 days while their unit's being renovated, just because it's more work moving walls and whatnot.
So when they're being displaced for 30 days, hopefully there's advance notice and everything, so it's...
Oh,
it's,
yes, absolutely, we do.
well orchestrated in advance. Okay.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Thank you. Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
Councilmember Burns, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you.
Says no votes open.
I'm here.
Yeah, it kind of glitched when I opened it. I can,
The suspense.
I know, try to refresh, because mine's
Voice
open.
vote.
Yeah, I voted.
Yeah, I
I can
voted.
record votes for those that can't right now.
Okay.
Yes votes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So Jaramillo, Walker, Condo, and Long will be yes votes. Okay, got it. So I will close that vote, and CR 135 passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Brooke.
you.
Thank you for being here. So late. All right, this is an opportunity for public comment. All our friends have left. Statements are limited to 3 minutes per speaker, but I do not see anyone. Is there anyone on the phone who would like to speak to council? Nope. All right. I will entertain a motion to adjourn to executive session pursuant to Section 4.5A of the City of North Glen Home Rule Charter for personnel matters regarding council appointee evaluation.
Second.
Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
Councilmember Burns, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, I will close that vote, and the motion to adjourn to executive session passes unanimously.
Okay. We will adjourn to the executive session. So we can take a short break.